What is going on, everybody? The wait is over. Studs and Duds, the most comprehensive NFL player review series on the internet, is here. Thank you, everybody, for pushing me, for asking when the series is coming out. The anticipation has been building, and it is finally here, and I really hope it is worth the wait and that you enjoy. And of course, please do hit that like button if you do. I do have some housekeeping before we dive into this thing, where we are going to do every single team from the first 3 weeks of the season. And part of that is I want to explain to any newcomers here what this series is all about. So we are recapping the risers and fallers from a player perspective in the NFL from previous NFL weeks. And while we do that, it is important to note that you will be seeing ratings changes as we go here. And you should know that I have a custom Madden roster that I have been doing since 2016. So the ratings you see do come from my weekly roster updates there. So yes, these ratings do come from a video game, and not a particularly great video game at that. Thanks, EA. These ratings do accurately show how I perceive these players in real life at the same time. I have taken the time to watch every single game so far this season, so you can be rest assured that despite these being video game ratings, they are ratings that show how I perceive how these players are rising and falling, and how I think they stand right now. So I do want to be transparent about that. And then I do want to say, I started working on these ratings adjustments at 7 a.m. this morning. It is now midnight, so we're going on hour 17 and counting. Going to be another hour and a half recording and the edit and the upload. And I'm more than happy to do this video, and I take pride in it, absolutely. I think it's one of the most unique things I do on this channel. And the roster update as well is something that I want to deliver to my core fans here on the channel. So I do this for you guys, but I do want to just, pour it out here and say this video, this series is a very big drain on my time, and it just uploading it to YouTube and uploading a free roster on Madden, it definitely is not a profitable venture for me. So if you enjoy this series and you want to endorse the series, please do consider either signing up on Patreon. I want to thank all of my lovely patrons as well, where you will support everything that I do on this channel. You'll get exclusive content as well, like weekly picks and film breakdowns. But if you don't want to do the monthly service, you can also just endorse this video right now by going to paypal.me/TFG Football, or on Venmo as well. If that's your Cash app, there is the link right there in front of you. So I want to be honest about the production of this video and just let you guys know how you can endorse it. I love this series. I see the passion that you guys bring for it, and I'm happy to do it. But a man does also have bills to pay. So thank you in advance for any endorsements for this video and for the rest of the series as we go. And then one last tiny little note. I have uploaded this roster update on Madden. You can find it TFG space football. Just search my username. I think it's TFG Real New and TFG Real 2022 is the name of the roster. My team is working on moving these updates onto PC and PS5 as well, so you can look forward to that. And also, make sure you guys follow TFG Plays, my secondary YouTube channel, where I will be doing all of my Madden content. Gonna be starting up a Bengals rebuild fitting after that big Joe Burrow comeback win against the Jags. I'm gonna be starting that up here in a couple weeks. That'll be an offline rebuild like the good old days over on TFG Plays, so make sure you subscribe. Okay, I know that was a lot, but thank you for hearing me out. Let's go ahead and get started with Studs and Duds, the first episode of the 2021 season. Here we go. So we will be going team by team here as opposed to game by game just for the first 3 weeks, and then it'll be game by game moving forward. But yeah, let's start with the Chicago Bears. We'll be going alphabetically by team name, and you can find timestamps in the description below as well if you want to skip around. But the Chicago Bears, let's get into it. David Montgomery, starting off the Studs and Duds series, going to get a +1. Just looks a lot quicker than the running back coming out of Iowa State that was supposed to be a little bit slower, but man, he looks explosive. We know he breaks tackles, but when he brings that little extra juice, he's a dangerous running back, and I think in the top 10 conversation, so climbing up a little bit. Then James Daniels, who it feels like has had a roller coaster career to this point, I believe in a contract year. Young player coming out of Iowa, but just hasn't been able to kind of get his footing underneath him quite literally, as he's just had bad runs, and he's on one of them right now for the Bears. Alec Ogletree is starting at linebacker with Danny Trevathan out for the Bears, and he can run, he can hit, but it's the same old Alec Ogletree who just can't cover. So he had to come down a little bit from where I had him. Jalen Johnson is having an excellent season. If you needed some positivity, if you're a Bears fan, Jalen Johnson's start is certainly one of those notes. I mean, he was a second-round pick last year, coming into a zone-heavy, quarters-oriented system here, and he's very comfortable. He is just a super smart corner. He's got the length. Not the most athletic player in the world, but if he's a half step ahead, it's going to make up for some of that speed. And he's just been a very sound corner and a player that I really expect to rise this season and stay up there for a long time. Been really impressed by him at the end of his year last year, but now into year 2 for him. Eddie Jackson got to come down. I mean, it's, I think, officially time to say that he's a good player. There's no doubt. But he's a risk taker, and that 1 year when he was surrounded by ultra talent in 2019, where he was an all-pro caliber safety, pretty safe to say that that was an outlier on his career. He's a risk taker and a guy that will miss tackles and be out of position a ton. So he's dropping, and I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to drop now that we've kind of conceded that the Eddie Jackson of 2019, I don't know if we're going to get that man back. Deion Bush is going to go up. He's been playing. I think Deshaun Gibson is banged up. Bush hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities for the Bears, but when he's been in there, he's looked pretty good. Probably not a long-term answer there, but good to have some good depth for the Bears. Then we have the Bengals. Now, it's worth noting the Thursday Night Football will not be included here. Safe to say a boost to Joe Burrow is in stock for next week, but not here for this video. Chris Evans has looked really good in very limited opportunities as Joe Mixon is their lead back, but Chris Evans at the Senior Bowl, super fluid, beating linebackers, looking like a sound receiving back, and that is what he's been for the Bengals. So the +1 here is going to be very receiving oriented for Chris Evans, but he looks quick and sharp and should be a player for this team. Then we have Jamar Chase, no brainer here. The top 5 pick is looking like it was a good pick for the Bengals, even if they chose him over Penei Sewell. It's not going to matter. If Jamar Chase is playing like this, probably due for another boost after another good game on Thursday Night Football. Just a do-it-all alpha receiver with everything you look for, simply put. Then we have CJ Uzomah already going up before Thursday Night Football. Man, he was electric on Thursday night. But this was actually boosting him for his blocking ability, and next week we'll be discussing him for his receiving ability. A lot of changes on this defense that has been a pleasant surprise. The Bengals have had a lot of difficulties really across the board, but up front, really getting guys to step up. Wyatt Ray has been an awesome part of a rotation up front. The Bengals have been pretty good against the run. Trey Hendrickson has been outstanding. I'm officially going to applaud the Bengals. Actually, really good foresight. Obviously, it sucks that Lawson got hurt, but his knee issues were a big part of why the Bengals moved on from him. And as, I guess, insensitive as it is to say, it was the right decision. I mean, Trey Hendrickson has been a very good player for the Bengals, and obviously Lawson got hurt. Hendrickson was a rotational player for the Saints. He's much more than that for the Bengals. He plays with power. He has a couple of pass rush moves in his tool belt, and he's a very explosive, lengthy player. So he actually is a pretty high upside player, finally getting an opportunity to be that #1 rusher. And I'm excited to see if he can kind of hold up as, someone that can maybe ascend in a similar light to, say, a Zadarius Smith, who had a familiar career path going to Green Bay as a guy that was never a full starter for the Ravens, and then emerged as a true #1. I wonder if Trey Hendrickson can be on that path. Then we have Josh Tupou, opted out of the 2020 season. Now, I just want to note that EA had this guy at like a 65 overall. He was really good in 2018, and he's just a classic run defending, tough up front defender, and he's resumed his rise from 2019 as, I believe, an undrafted free agent years ago. Then we have Akeem Davis-Gaither, Jermaine Pratt, and Logan Wilson. All of these linebackers playing very good football. They have invested in these guys and have really held out hope that these guys can develop. And the beauty of this trio is they all wear different hats. You've got your kind of nickel cover backer and Akeem Davis-Gaither. He looked good in that role, covering tight ends and running backs. You have Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, who are much more of your three-down players. Pratt is a very heady coverage player, a little more of a sideline-to-sideline guy. Logan Wilson can go sideline-to-sideline, but a little bit stronger and more physical and willing to play between the trenches. So you have a really nice trio that all play well off each other. Logan Wilson, most notably, has been awesome. He was a third-round pick last year and really came on late, a player that I had a second-round grade on, and I loved his tape coming out of Wyoming or Idaho, one of those two. But explosive, underrated speed, heady coverage player, really good coming downhill. So yeah, this is a good-looking trio that I think is going to continue to grow together and climb throughout the season, and is a big reason for this Bengals defense and their front seven having success so far. Eli Apple is going to come down, self-explanatory. Bengals fans were waiting on that one, hoping to get Trey Waynes back here, and you don't have to worry about that so much. But yeah, not a great free agent pickup there. He's been getting roasted. Von Bell is going to go up as well. He was such a good ad for the Bengals. It was curious when they added him if he was going to kind of beat out Sean Williams, and absolutely. I mean, he is a stud run defender. But he'll get in your face in coverage, too. He can hang in there against tight ends. He's not an elite cover safety or anything, but he's a really good, strong safety and a great compliment, of course, to Jesse Bates up top. Also a note on B.J. Hill. What a trade that was. I can't believe that the Giants agreed to that, to give up like a really good run-defending defensive tackle for a really bad center in Billy Price, and that's exactly what's happened. Price has sucked, and B.J. Hill has played well. I'm already pretty high on Hill, so no ratings boost yet. He's met my expectations for him, but worth a note that he's been good for them as well. He's even rushed the passer a little bit. Okay, then we have the Buffalo Bills. Just a little bit on offense. You know, they've been kind of as expected on that side of the ball, but Emmanuel Sanders looks fresh and healthy. Big week 3 specifically. But yeah, he looks somewhere between a reduced version of himself at 33 years old and his old self. So he's going to go up. And then Dawson Knox, who is on my breakout list, is going to go up one. A beautiful catch week 3 in the end zone. Athletic player, finally getting full-time reps as the starter there. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Gregory Rousseau, one of the most hated players in this draft, has come out and looked pretty good. Not like perfect, but there's been some pressures in there. He's using that length in run defense and getting involved. So +1 for the young edge, getting his first action since 2019 after opting out of college ball in 2020. AJ Epinesa has been a huge, pleasant surprise. Not that I didn't think he'd be good in the NFL, but the way that he has reshaped his game, he has lost a ton of weight, coming down about 15 pounds. And he looks so much faster and quicker, and he had a really nice finesse skill set coming out of Iowa, but as a bit of a tweener at like 280 pounds, it was just kind of a weird skill set. Well, at 260 pounds, he's been much better at using his juice and finesse, and then he still has a little power in there as well. So been really fun to see AJ Epinesa morph his game at the next level. Then Justin Zimmer has been a good part of a rotation that has much needed a good run defender on the inside. Matt Milano looks incredible. Man, when you see the contracts that guys like Darius Leonard and even Fred Warner got after Matt Milano got paid, I mean, Matt Milano is, you know, a better cover player than Darius Leonard, and he's not what those guys offer as a run defender. But if he's getting half the money, I mean, my God, he is super rangy in coverage and just ultra instinctive. He understands route concepts, and he's so often in the right place. So he's just a hell of a player. A bit of a down year last year, but good on the Bills to stay true to him and also have the foresight to pay him before the market blew up. Then we have Dane Jackson plus 168 to a 69. I talked about him in my deep dive, kind of needing to be that fourth depth piece in the event of injuries. And a player that coming out of Pittsburgh I did like and liked how he projected in this kind of quarters system. He's a very quick, heady player that's good in those quarters coverages. He's played some slot as well where he is an aggressive physical defender. So Dane Jackson looks pretty good in limited opportunities. It's good to know that they have a fourth piece there and a cornerback room that much needed it. Then the Denver Broncos, exciting undefeated start to their season, led by Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. His pocket presence has been impeccable. He's making good decisions. He's been accurate. He's just been very solid. Their season starts this week. We'll see what Teddy Bridgewater's true ceiling is, but definitely deserves a boost. Melvin Gordon gonna go up as well, playing like a man, fighting for his job, fighting for a new contract as this team added Javonte Williams, who also looks good, by the way. But yeah, Melvin Gordon in shape, looking good. KJ Hamler gonna go up, getting some more targets, opportunities arising with the injury to Jerry Jeudy, and just stepping up, showing good hands, developing as a route runner, a very raw player coming out of Penn State, but a ton of athletic upside, and projects as a really nice explosive player for this incredible roster and receiving core. Eric Saubert has been getting involved as a blocker. They got two tight ends ahead of him, so limited opportunities, but he's been standing out. Lloyd Cushenberry, who I've been very hard on, has won that starting center job for now. Quinn Miners has been getting some snaps at guard, by the way, but Lloyd Cushenberry, credit to him stepping up in the face of competition and keeping Quinn Miners on the bench, has played much better football here in 2021. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Von Miller, I think he was Defensive Player of the Month I saw for the AFC. I think that's what I saw on the NFL.com ticker, but that doesn't make any sense because it should be Myles Garrett. But anyway, Von Miller has also been awesome. Does he have a sack every week? It feels like he does, but he looks back and definitely worth giving a boost. And if he continues to show that he is that elite player, he can get back up into that, conversation with Watt and Garrett and the Bosa's and all that. Just feels like it's been a while since we've had Von Miller in that sentence. Jonathan Cooper is filling in as Bradley Chubb is injured. I guess we're just destined to never see Von Miller and Bradley Chubb on the field at the same time, but credit to Jonathan Cooper. He's stepped up and shown some of that explosiveness. Denver's been just outstanding at plugging in dudes, whether it was Malik Reed or Shaq Barrett back in the day. I like what we've seen from Andre Mintz, one of my favorite undrafted pickups as well. This team really does a good job of, having that rotational kind of edge hybrid outside backer. That's kind of what Jonathan Cooper has done. He offers a little bit in coverage as well. Alexander Johnson, an impressive player. He's kind of a poor man's Devin White. He doesn't have incredible range as a cover player, but he's even more instinctive and smart than Devin White, honestly, in coverage. But when it comes to that QB spy, run and chase, blitz the quarterback, 245-pound, just mauling type of linebacker, that is what Alexander Johnson brings to the table. And he's having a really good season. Fun story there. Kind of a breakout 27-year-old rookie a couple years ago. And an underrated player in the NFL. Patrick Surtain getting a boost. CB1 right there. And kind of proving that out so far. Not that J.C. Horn's been bad, but man, Patrick Surtain just hitting the ground running, looks so comfortable. This is why I liked him, man. There's no holes in his game. I think he's a better athlete than he gets credit for. He's got ball skills. He plays the run. He's smart in zone coverage. Sure, he might never be an elite man corner, but I think he'd be a very good man corner and elite zone corner. So Patrick Surtain hitting the ground running. And then Kareem Jackson. Why did nobody pay Kareem Jackson, man? He looks outstanding. He looks like he's speeding up, not slowing down. He's been so good for Denver ever since he came over from the Houston Texans, and that has not changed. He's in the perfect scheme where these safeties are often treated like, not corners, but they have to show that skill set running quarters coverages, and Kareem Jackson has done a little bit of everything in his career, so he's in the perfect spot for his skill set. And then just a note on Netani Muti, has been playing very well at guard. Now, he's rated high for me on my Madden roster, and I like Netani Muti because he was really good coming out. It's just been a matter of health for him, But he's been out there and looking good and kind of showing why myself and many people included were high on him in the draft. Looking like another steal for the Denver Broncos. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. Kareem Hunt going to get a boost. He's actually probably outplayed Nick Chubb ever so slightly this year. Not that Chubb's been bad, but I actually tweeted that Kareem Hunt, I think, is the hardest running back in the NFL to tackle. He is a load. He is like a brick house, but his contact balance is so outstanding. Probably the best in the NFL. I think Alvin Kamara is in this debate as well. And I'm just talking about in space, one-on-one, can you get the guy to the ground? And he just is so good at staying up and moving forward and then continuing on after that. But Demetric Felton has also been good. They have an embarrassment of riches with this running back room. And Felton has charted just as many snaps at receiver, if not more, than he has at actual running back. But that's what he brings to the table. It's what he showed at the Senior Bowl. Already, I think, one of the best, smoothest route running backs in the NFL, and showing, I would say, more shiftiness and elusiveness after shedding some weight from his UCLA days. And they could actually make Demetric Felton just a straight-up slot receiver and the heir apparent to Jarvis Landry. He's going to be a fun career to follow. Anthony Schwartz is going to go up. He had a good week 1 against the Chiefs. Obviously, rated very low as like a 63 overall, just track star speedster, but he got open and made some catches, so worth giving him a little boost. Harrison Bryant continues to play well in very limited opportunities at tight end for the Browns. Just another embarrassment of riches at that tight end spot. Right tackle Jack Conklin continues to grow as a run blocker, one of the best run blocking right tackles in the NFL, leading the charge for this outstanding run game for the Browns. Pass protection's been fine, but nothing great. Then on to the defense, Myles Garrett, self-explanatory. I've talked a lot about Myles Garrett throughout this week. He was on my MVP show, so if you need some Myles Garrett talk, you can go back and listen to that, but he's going up +1. Takk McKinley, on the other hand, is going to go up 2. I love the way that they're able to use him. There's a blitz package they have where they put Garrett and Clowney on the left side, and then they put Takk McKinley out as a wide 9. So you have to handle all of that on the right side. You just have to shift your line right against that lineup. But Takk McKinley does have get off and burst and speed and bend to get after the quarterback. Now it's kind of a one-trick pony skill set, but paired with the rest of this unit and used in a more creative way than he was used in Atlanta, there's something there in Takk McKinley. He was a first-round pick a couple years ago, and he's had 50 pressure seasons. I don't think Takk McKinley is a bust. Atlanta just was ready to be done with him. Then we have Malik McDowell. Actually had to be created. I was wrong. I did not think Malik McDowell was going to be having a comeback in the NFL. But he has gotten his life in order and definitely making the most of this opportunity. He's been their best interior defensive lineman, and I fully expect him to climb as the year goes on. Just can only boost him so much after 100 snaps. But a player that at a time was viewed as a top 10 prospect, just off-field issues, a freak athlete, and he's showing it a little bit this year so far. So gets created at a 69 overall, and we'll continue to monitor him. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah just kind of being that, fully corked slingshot that's ready to go. Just kind of see ball, hit ball for this defense. He's made some plays and showing why there was so much hype for him. Was really good against the Chicago Bears, but he's been all over the place. Definitely looks like a player that should not have fallen as far as he did. Then Malcolm Smith continues to be a really good cover player and probably the headiest 3-down linebacker, or at least 3rd-down linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. Had a good year last year and has done a good job to honestly, win this opportunity. Surrounded by a lot of different talented players here, he's been the guy that's emerged for the former Super Bowl MVP and a veteran. It's no small feat what he's doing, and he looks pretty good. Then Greg Newsome +2, the first-round corner, looks plug and play. Looking like a very good draft pick so far. His athletic traits are off the charts. His quickness, his speed at 6 feet. As long as he's relatively smart, he's going to be a very damn good corner in the NFL. But it appears that he's actually above average smartness. He is a heady player in those zone coverages, so he looks really good. John Johnson, on the other hand, has been struggling. He's not the best athlete in the world, so for a new team, different chemistry. The scheme's pretty similar, but it is a different coaching staff. Maybe just needs a little bit of time to get that full half step ahead of the offense type of play from John Johnson, because he is a player that leans on anticipation and his IQ, because he's not a great athlete. But right now, you are seeing him give up some yardage on the back half of that defense. Now on to the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady is going to go up, potentially playing his best football in his career, man. He has been super impressive. The arm talent's still very good. Brady's just incredibly unique as opposed to all of these other young quarterbacks. Allen, Mahomes, Kyler, it's like it doesn't matter where they're throwing from. They're going to have these great throws with great arm talent. Brady really does need to be stationary in the pocket, and that's why you're happy that you have such a good offensive line here. But that said, when he can set his feet, especially over the middle of the field, he can let it rip with the best of them. So he has a good baseline of arm talent when he can throw with his full mechanics. He's accurate. He's the smartest quarterback in the NFL and playing, I would say, probably the highest IQ quarterback we've seen since Peyton Manning back at the end of his prime. So really good football from Tom Brady climbing up. Antonio Brown's going to go up +2. Maybe he is on the Tom Brady diet. I know he was living in his house for a while, but his age seems to be going in the opposite direction. He looks incredibly sharp, and the offense was not the same without Antonio Brown out there. He's probably been their best receiver for the first 2 weeks of the season at least. Gronk's going to come up as well. He doesn't exactly look like fast or young out there, but his hands are some of the most reliable in the league, and he's still a great blocker. So +2 for Gronk. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Donovan Smith is going to come up. He continues to develop despite being a veteran player. I think a guy that does benefit from Brady's ability to, help his offensive linemen by not dropping too far back. He creates very easy pockets for the offensive lineman because of where he is. And when you're a power blocker like Donovan Smith, it's just get to a spot and don't let anyone past you. And Tom Brady will handle a lot of the work for you. So it is helping Donovan Smith, but he is a powerful, big player, and he's not getting beat right now. Then we have Raheem Nunez-Roches. He's been around, man. He's bounced around. He's gotten different roles, but he's a good football player. He's just a rotational, run-defending defensive tackle. He's got some pass rush moves. Just a nice piece to have for the Bucs. I will say, this defense has had some hiccups. I think there's some injuries in the secondary you can point to, but Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, who were such a big part of that Super Bowl run for this defense, have really not been the same. And we've talked about regression for Shaq Barrett for a couple years now. And I'm not saying it's coming for sure. For the first 3 weeks, though, he's looking like something between that, undrafted guy that's a good rusher but nothing special, and this elite, uber productive edge guy, somewhere in the middle there. I don't know where his season's going to end up, but he's not getting after the quarterback like he has for the last 2 years in Tampa Bay right now. And Jason Pierre-Paul, it would make sense that maybe age regression is stacking up for him. And that's why it's nice you have a Joe Tryon, Troy Inca to maybe eventually take JPB's job by the playoffs. Bruce Arians is very smart. He's going to play whoever's best at that position. And so far, Tryon looks like the better player. Maybe JPP just needs a little bit more time to get in football shape. I don't know, but right now he's just not getting after the quarterback, and this pass rush has not been the same. Jordan Whitehead is going to come up. He's been very good coming down, man coverage, just steadily improving as a mid-round pick, part of that collection of mid-round picks that this Bucs front office just nailed in that secondary. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray has got to go up. The plays he's making, he is the sole reason the Cardinals are undefeated. It has not come without some bad plays in there, some really bad interceptions from Kyler Murray, but he's more than made up for it with the incredible plays that he's making. So Kyler's coming up. Christian Kirk has been such a pleasant surprise. There's been a lot of pleasant surprises for the Cardinals. Kirk has been one of them. getting a lot more opportunities to play in the slot after having to play outside with Larry Fitzgerald here for years, showing off that explosiveness, the run after catch ability from the slot. Just he's so much more comfortable in that area of the field, and now that he's played outside, he can combine all of the different things he learned as a perimeter player to help him separate more on deeper options from the slot. Things like crossing routes, seam routes, corners, post corners, you name it. He can do it all from the slot. Then you have Rondale Moore going up one. It's been in the ways that we expected for the most part. Bubble screens, and had one downfield play that was a nice adjustment on an improvisational play from him and Kyler Murray. But it's just good to see him accomplish those things and show what he showed in college on a very limited sample size into the NFL now. He's been an explosive addition to this offense. Max Williams has been very sound. He's been a good player when he's healthy. That's just been the catch on his career, but the injury woes seem relatively behind Max Williams at this point. He's a very good blocker, steady pair of hands. This is hot takey, but he's not that far off of what Gronk offers right now for the BUCS. Just big, an oversized tight end with a good pair of hands. It's comparable, I think. You just don't have that Tom Brady Gronk chemistry that makes it look a lot better. Then we have Josh Jones +1. He's played a game at guard and a game at tackle and looked good at both. That is huge for the Cardinals to have that flexibility. Kelvin Beachum is back, and I don't know who's going to be rolling at guard for them when they're fully healthy, but it's good to see Josh Jones, who had a lot of hype, didn't really play last year, but it's good to see him out there and looking like the competent offensive lineman. It was kind of a high floor, maybe lower ceiling prospect coming out, and we're seeing that high floor right now. He has hung in there and been just fine. Rodney Hudson hasn't been perfect. He is up there in age. It's a different system here. He has been far from bad, but up there at an 88, one of the top centers in the NFL. He has been, he hasn't played like a top 10 center this year, so he just had to come down a touch. Still a great move to go get him, though, and I think his communication has improved the pass protection as a whole, even if his individual play isn't at that elite level. Then on to the defense, Rashard Lawrence putting some things together, getting some more playing time, being a more consistent run defender. That's been a big issue for him. Lawrence popped for me when I watched him at LSU, and he pops for the same reason for the Cardinals, in that his get-off is absolutely exceptional. But part of that get-off comes at the cost of having very skinny legs and a very thick upper body. He has been a guy that gets pushed around a lot because of that, and a guy that lacks discipline, and just a guy with a weird game that he needed to figure out what works in the NFL. And it seems he's starting to put some of that together. He's a physically gifted player, and it's good to see him start to put some things together. Chandler Jones coming off the injury, going up +2. He's been good in every week, but man, week 1 was one of the more dominant edge performances you're going to see, and that was against a good tackle in Taylor Lewan. He looks big, he looks powerful, and just he wants another big contract before his season ends, and he's playing like he very well deserves that. I don't know if Arizona gives it to him or someone else, but good for Chandler Jones to get all the way back here. Isaiah Simmons going to go up for the Cardinals as well, +2, getting comfortable. Just a freaky safety linebacker hybrid used in a lot of different creative ways here. And it's been good for the Cardinals to see that investment pay off over time. He's clearly the game is slowing down for him. He's playing better in coverage. He's getting that massive 6'4" frame just in the way of a lot of both running and passing windows and lanes. So he's been kind of all over the place. Byron Murphy going to go up. Really fun to see Byron Murphy click in, playing a little outside, playing a little slot, kind of going all over the place. Heady, quick player with a lot of talent. He's been their best corner, going up +1. I had the nice pick 6 on the flea flicker against Trevor Lawrence. Robert Alford also has been healthy and looking kind of like his old self. That was a big question on if Alford was ever going to be healthy here. People kind of forgot he existed looking at the Cardinals coming into the year, but they did not forget, and Robert Alford did not forget how to play football. He's still a very good corner, trending up. Then we got the Chargers. Justin Herbert just firing missiles, limiting mistakes. His accuracy is already, in my opinion, some of the best in the league, especially if you want to talk about just all-around accuracy, arm talent to every level of the field. It's truly special, and his connection with Mike Williams is huge. If they keep playing like this, Mike Williams' rating is going to skyrocket, and as is his paycheck, because he's in a contract year, former top 10 pick, but he looks explosive. His run after the catch ability is very underrated, but he's using that big frame to release off the line and come down with tough catches, third down, back shoulders, fades, go balls, you name it. He's been huge for the Chargers, as has Donald Parham. He's a second tight end here. So much upside with Donald Parham. He is explosive. He can separate over the middle of the field. He also blocks his ass off at 6'8", 240 pounds. Weird player. Had to come into the XFL out of, I don't even remember what college, but just a total diamond in the rough in development for the Chargers, and I like what I've seen from Donald Parham. Rashawn Slater hitting the ground running is a much-loved offensive tackle prospect by many. The athletic traits shining through. Better anchor than you'd expect for a more slender offensive tackle, but what an addition he's been. Been a big part of the Chargers' improvements for the offensive line. Matt Filer as well. Both these moves were applauded by myself and many, and Corey Linsley. But Linsley actually hasn't been all that special. He's been an upgrade by far to what they had, and I think it's similar to Rodney Hudson, where you're getting a center that can communicate blitzes and take some of that off of a young quarterback like Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray. And I think that's been big and helped the guys around him, because you see Filer killing it. You see Ode Abushi killing it. Linsley himself has had some weaknesses. Coming out of, being removed from that Green Bay scheme that, we'll see Josh Myers has benefited from. Clearly maybe protecting a little bit of the one-on-one ability from Corey Linsley, but for the most part, this offensive line is trending very much upwards, and I would expect Corey Linsley to play better football moving forward as well. But Ode Abushi is going to get a +2 along with Matt Filer. Both those guys playing very good guard. The best offensive line the Chargers have had in a long, long time. Then onto the defensive side of the football, Jerry Tillery is going to go down. Is it time to write Jerry Tillery off? I feel like we're approaching that territory. If Brandon Staley can't figure out how to use you, you're probably just not a very good football player. I did think he was overdrafted, and he's had some flashes. He's an athletic dude, but I don't know. He's like Dean Lowry, basically. Just a tall, explosive defensive tackle that doesn't have any pass rush moves and gets blown off the ball in run defense. That's basically what he is. Joey Bosa, on the other hand, is absolutely incredible. Bosa might actually be this team's most underrated player. I mean, he's right there with Myles Garrett and Khalil Mack and any top edge rusher you want to talk about. He is probably the most technically sound edge rusher. It's either him or Nick, his brother. Just as far as knowing what you're trying to do to block him and having all of the different tools. His get-off is exceptional. He's obviously powerful at 270 pounds. Also credit to Brandon Staley for allowing him to keep his hand in the dirt a lot of the times in this 3-4 defense, where he can continue to utilize that get-off. So Joey Bosa killing it for this defense. Uchenna Nwosu, on the other hand, also not been amazing. Like, he's fine, but he's just not a true pass rusher, right? He's, to me, at the high end of these hybrid edge outside linebackers in these all these different Vic Fangio schemes. You got Malik Reed in Denver. The Rams have their Justin Hollins. Uchenna Nwosu is in that category of versatile, good, do-it-all edge outside linebackers, but just not a true pass rusher. And honestly, that's fine when you have Joey Bosa on the other side. Kaiser White's been playing very good football at linebacker. He's fighting for reps. They got a couple different guys they like, but he's been flying around the field, making some good plays. Asante Samuel Jr., you knew he was going to go up. He's already won 2 Defensive Rookies of the Week. He's one of my favorite players in this class, but to see him put it to the field in the NFL, he was my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and so far he's off to a great start. He's going to have to contend with Micah Parsons down the stretch, but 2 picks so far. He's the picks themselves are actually relatively lucky, but he's been in tight coverage all season long. Just an outstanding quarters coverage corner and an absolute steal in the second round. Tavon Campbell has been asked to play some corner here, not a full-time starter, but a lengthy, interesting, athletic player, getting elevated by the scheme and the coaching perhaps a little bit, as is Alohi Gilman. He's, not terribly off of like John Johnson's skill set, just as far as a slower safety, but a really heady player and a really good tackler. They're using him in a similar way in these quarters coverages that don't ask for a lot of range from these safeties. It's more about quickness and communication, and that's a good spot for Alohi Gilman, who has had a very nice 2021 sophomore campaign. So Alohi Gilman, +2. Now on to Kansas City. Travis Kelce continues to be just absolutely remarkable. He's so unique. He finds holes in zones, and he's almost got this like telepathic communication with Patrick Mahomes, where they just end up finding the open space in the defense. So he is very close to the 99 club for me. That is currently only occupied, by the way, by Aaron Donald. Then Orlando Brown is going to lose 1 rating point here. Just his footwork is bad. There's no way around it. I was worried about him being ripped out of that run-heavy read option offense into the most shotgun pass-heavy offense in the league, outside of maybe Buffalo, for a quarterback that drops back really far, and we've seen it. Orlando Brown is not the best pass protector in the league. Now, he's been a good tackle, but I think we're seeing some weaknesses be exploited in his game, and I just don't know if he has the athletic ability to change that. I think he's a good tackle. I don't think he's a great franchise tackle that he seems to think he is. So I'm definitely lower on Orlando Brown. I would say that that's been a good take of mine. He's fine, which is what I've said, but he's just not a great player. Creed Humphrey, on the other hand, has been outstanding. Was my number 1 center, and he has just plugged right in. He's been really good in the run game, but good in the pass game as well. It was kind of his profile coming out. I expect he's only going to continue to develop here, as Lucas Niang has, +3 at right tackle. Really good athlete. He's mauling dudes in the run game. They've been able to move the ball on the ground when they don't fumble it. But yeah, Lucas Niang's been just showing off his traits. He's been okay as a pass protector. I think he actually has an identical pass protection grade to Orlando Brown right now. So yeah, Niang's been a pleasant surprise. I thought Remmers would beat him out at tackle, but they went with the youth, and they're looking good for that. So Alex Okafor is going to come down. He's pretty much a useless player at this point, but they're stuck with him because they gave him guaranteed money. He's older, he's not explosive, he doesn't have pass rush moves, he's just not a good player. The Chiefs kind of botched that whole edge group going for Okafor and Frank Clark when they had, the guys that they had before that. But Jerron Reed also going to come down. He just hasn't been a very good player for them. The Seahawks cut him. It was kind of a suspicious deal. And he's a unique player. He plays upright. He's never been a great run defender, and he certainly hasn't been here. But he also hasn't really gotten after the passer either. So Jerron Reed stock down. They got him for free. Kind of more of a name than anything right now, and we'll see if he can turn it around or not. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts, just 5 players here. Michael Pittman, they've been kind of force-feeding him. I just feel like Pittman doesn't do anything super exciting, but he's incredibly reliable, and that's worth something. His hands are very good. He's big, he's tough, and he's just a solid receiver. Then you have Mark Glowinski. Is going to go down. Did get Aaron Donald in there, so we'll see if he can bounce back, but he has been really rough for the Colts. He's had Carson Wentz really running for his life. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Tyquan Lewis is stepping up at least as a run defender. This Colts run defense is actually outstanding. I don't know if they even get enough credit for that. But yeah, Lewis is a big-bodied edge guy, and you hope he plays the run really tough, and he's doing that this year. In the secondary, Rock Ya-Sin is going to go up +1. It's a big year for Rock Ya-Sin, so huge for Colts fans looking for some optimism. At least there's some right there. Rock Ya-Sin at a corner position that they haven't really found anybody outside of the slot. Rock Ya-Sin needs to have a big year. It's a zone-heavy system, and there's no reason Rock Ya-Sin can't become a good starting corner for them, and he's off to a good start. Kari Willis, sorry there's no, I forgot to do the red text on this graphic for Glowinski and Kari Willis, but Willis is a limited player, and I think teams are picking on him a little bit right now. He hasn't been like attacked in coverage like this in the past. He's given up a ton of yardage, and we're going to lower his coverage ability because of that. Still a very good run defender, though, and an excellent tackler. Then we got the Dallas Cowboys. Ton of players to talk about here. Tony Pollard, +2. He is the most explosive running back out there. There's no way around it. He's been outstanding. I think he's PFF's #1 graded running back at the moment. So limited carries to truly skyrocket him, and he's got great run blocking in front of him. But yeah, he is explosive. He makes guys miss. Great in the receiving game. Tony Pollard's awesome. Cedric Wilson is also awesome. Talk about making guys miss. It feels like he hasn't been tackled on the first attempt this entire season. He also had a nice touchdown where he did a good job working back to Dak on a touchdown in the red zone. A player that I liked coming out of Boise State, but of course he's been buried here behind this elite receiving corps. So to have a Cedric Wilson as your 4th receiver, really stepping up with Michael Gallup out, a nice player, Cedric Wilson. Someone should be putting him on their radar to potentially be like a decent free agent pickup next year to get an opportunity. Dalton Schultz has been awesome as well. I liked him coming out of Stanford, just a fluid route runner, good pair of hands. He's been a surprisingly good blocker. He's been way better than Blake Jarwin, and he should fully take that tight end 1 job within a couple weeks if he keeps playing like this. Tyron Smith looks fully back. This has been huge for the Cowboys. I mean, not just him looking fully back, but even just staying healthy. But the fact that he is playing just in shape and showing that physical dominance that he had 3 years ago, huge for the Cowboys, especially after they kicked his can down the road contractually, and they're stuck with him for a long time. So for him to bounce back has been just monumental for the Cowboys. And then on top of that, you got Connor Williams playing really good football, +2. He's been steadily developing a tackle coming out of Texas, sliding inside to play guard and, beefing up, playing with more power, learning guard. It's been a process for him, but he has arrived. And now with Tyron Smith next to him, you got elite play on the other side of the ball. Now you just need Tyler Biadasz to come around, and this is going to be an all-time great offensive line. Williams just continues to trend upwards. Terrence Steele at right tackle has had to step in with Lyle Collins injured, and he's held his own. He's actually a really good athlete, and he's been run blocking at an incredibly high level, clearing the way for Pollard and Zeke, and he's held his own in pass protection. He's obviously got a long way to go in that regard, but to have a swingman like this, a guy that could probably play guard in a pinch as well, just another huge boost for the Cowboys for a team that's had difficulties with this offensive line staying healthy and right now dealing with some suspensions and stuff. So Terrence Steele, stock up there. And then onto the defense, Dorrance Armstrong, Chauncey Golston, both guys as a part of a rotation here playing good football. It really just comes down to that. Brent Urban was brought in here after a really good season for the Chicago Bears where he played a lot more kind of 4-eye, 3 technique. He's kind of that awkward 6'7", 295-pound hybrid interior piece and just kind of a bit of an awkward scheme fit. I think if they used him a little bit more outside, he'd play better. But as a true defensive tackle, that's not really his game, so he is going to drop down despite being so good last year. But on the other hand, Osa Odigizua is phenomenal. He is doing everything for the Cowboys on the interior. He's been everywhere, defending the run, shooting gaps, showing some finesse as a rusher, showing some power, relentlessness, pursuit speed. I'm a huge fan of what we've seen from Osa Odigizua. My comp for him was Shelby Harris, and he's been playing like Shelby Harris so far. Leighton Vander Esch is going to come down. I feel like he has lost a step with the neck deal. He's just not everywhere like he used to be, and he hasn't been for a long time. I think we are trending towards no more Leighton Vander Esch in Dallas after this season. He hasn't been like a complete and utter trash bag out there, but he's just not an impact player. Then we got Micah Parsons, who is an impact player 100%. a true do-it-all, modern outside backer defender. He's been rushing the passer at a very high level. I don't think he's showing like this incredible pass rush skill set, but he has length and juice and power and clearly can rush off the edge. And I'm excited to see what Dallas does with him long term. We just mentioned Leighton Vander Esch probably on the way out. Well, you have some young linebackers in there that are pretty good. They have Jabril Cox, who has all of the hype in the world. Well, maybe you make Cox and Jalen Smith your true cover linebackers, and then Parsons is kind of this hybrid outside backer type. Kind of reminds me a lot of with Dan Quinn here, with how they used to use Bruce Irvin for Seattle, but Micah Parsons just like a Bruce Irvin on steroids, which is just stupid to even think about that concept. But yeah, he is so fast and just everywhere. You got to account for where he is. It's the only way to describe Micah Parsons. He's just freaking everywhere. He flies around and makes plays. It's been so explosive and fun to watch so far, and he's got a bright future ahead. He's just raw explosiveness at the moment, getting deployed very well by Dan Quinn. Then we got Trayvon Diggs, +3. He's been one of the breakout stars of the entire season. Just physical, in-your-face, smart corner. Been really impressed by what we've seen from Trayvon Diggs. And for Dallas to have a true number one corner, at least a guy playing like that right now, I mean, look at all the stuff that's going well for Dallas right here on this graphic. Then the safeties, Damontae Kazee seems to have won that job from Malik Hooker. I wasn't like crazy about the Malik Hooker signing. I thought it was a good ad just to ensure that you can, get a good starting safety here. But I also said I'm not sure he's better than Damontae Kazee, and it turns out Damontae Kazee is better, at least for now. Hooker has been trying to, show what he can, but Kazee's playing really well. He's going to go up here. And Jaron Curse is also playing really well at strong safety. And Hooker, honestly, he has just been kind of another guy out there. So that's just kind of how the safety rotation is shaking down. Jaron Curse, he's one of the best tacklers in the NFL. And if he's just functional as a cover player, he's a really good strong safety. So, man, Dallas has just done such a good job just finding help where they needed it. And this is just an impressive slate of upgrades for the first 3 weeks of the season. Now we've got the Miami Dolphins and their putrid offense. So Tua is going to come down. I mean, for one, he just doesn't look good. He looks like a quarterback, a backup quarterback out there, physically speaking, mentally speaking. He just isn't there on either level. And then you look at the Dolphins' game plan with him in there. It's as if their starter had gotten hurt and they have to go to a Case Keenum and deploy this gimmicky game plan. Now, I would still like to see what he can do in a real offense with a real offensive line and a real game plan. I think he might actually look okay, but for right now, we just have not seen that, and it's impossible to project that. Not to mention, this is the second time now that an actual backup or fringe starter, Jacoby Brissett, Ryan Fitzpatrick, has come in, and all of a sudden the offense looks very functional. So just concerns out the ass with Tua right now, and there's not a bigger stock down player in my mind in the NFL. I'm extremely concerned about the future of the Dolphins under Tua. And under the protection of Austin Jackson at left tackle also does not help. Probably the worst left tackle in football right now. The development has just not been there like you hoped it would have been. Man, it's tough to watch right now. This offensive line across the board is just miserable. Liam Eichenberg also has been a disappointment. I thought he would plug in at right tackle. I knew he'd have some issues with like length and power because he's lighter and has shorter arms, but I at least thought like he has such good pass protection technique that he should at least be able to step in and like get in people's way consistently. And he hasn't. He's been getting run over quite literally by power rushers. And not even able to start, which I thought he was a surefire lock to start at right tackle, and he has not been. So the tackle situation is a nightmare for the Dolphins. Michael Dieter has been a little better at center, so that's one saving grace for the offensive line, but it's he still has a long way to go. I do like Michael Dieter. I think he can come around in time. But yeah, the offense is in trouble. For the defense, Emmanuel Ogbah looks outstanding. He has so much power and size and juice in that kind of hybrid DN position. He is one of Brian Flores' biggest accomplishments is getting him for very cheap and turning him into a highly functional pass rusher. Then you have Zach Sealer also in kind of that similar role, making the most of this scheme and how well they are using these more, hybrid types of DNs. And Seiler's more of a really good run defender, just a high effort player on the inside, but he's been a good find for the Dolphins, as has Andrew Van Ginkel, Brennan Scarlett. All these guys are kind of maximized by the scheme, I would say, being that hybrid 3-4 Belichickian style. But Van Ginkel is very comparable to Kyle Van Noy, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they released Kyle Van Noy to kind of let Andrew Van Ginkel loose. Just an incredibly smart player, a true do-it-all Belichickian outside backer. A master of a jack of all trades, master of none at the core. Can defend the run, drop into coverage, blitz a little, pass rush a little from a traditional sense. Just really fun do-it-all player. And Brennan Scarlett's in that same mold. He was for the Texans as well, but finding a better scheme and playing better football in limited opportunities there. Then you got Nick Needham, who has actually beat out Noah Igbenogany and continue to fight for good reps. I think they love his quickness out of the slot there and his ability to communicate different coverages and not blow assignments. He's a smart, quick player, limited physical upside, but impressive that he's been able to hold off some of the talent that they have in that secondary to continue getting reps, and he's been solid. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jalen Reagor's been solid, nothing special there, but he's catching the ball, getting reps, and not looking like a bust, which is good for Jalen Reagor. Quez Watkins has also been making incredible plays down the field, really outstanding deep speed, and just again making plays when they call his number. And hasn't really shown the drop issues that we were worried about with him. So more time will be beneficial for Quez Watkins because we just have such a small sample size. But looking good for those receivers. Jordan Mailata, +2, gets the big contract extension. I just love his career trajectory. Comes over, has never played football, 7th round pick, but a total freak. Just a massive athletic run blocker who has slowly refined his ability as a pass protector. He still has a ways to go, but I see why they paid him because he's clearly a smart, high character, good worker and a freak athlete, and that's a good pairing, 100%. Derek Barnett is trending down. I just think this is kind of what he is. He was probably just overdrafted, not a great athlete. I would say there's not a huge difference between Derek Barnett and AJ Epinesa. Then you have Javon Hargrave, +1, 80 to an 81. He's been one of the stories of the Eagles is his emergence as a premium pass rushing interior defensive lineman. It's been a little while since he's played at that level, but it's good to see it. And he's actually outproduced Fletcher Cox so far. He could definitely continue to climb if he keeps playing at this clip. Then you got Alex Singleton, just a little overmatched. He's not the most athletic dude out there. And he's getting kind of burnt in coverage and sideline to sideline. He's missing some tackles. It just hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies for Alex Singleton, who's a fun story, but probably just maxed out a little bit. Eagles could probably upgrade at that position at some point. Then we got Steven Nelson, such a good signing. He looks healthy and like the quality corner that he is, basically. And Avonte Maddox benefiting from a healthier defense, better pass rush, better surrounding situation, and just he's a really quick slot corner. That's really what it comes down to. His athletic traits are built to play in the slot. He's back in there, and he's flying around, making some plays, getting in some passing lanes. You like what we've seen from this secondary as a whole. Darius Slay's playing pretty good ball too. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan, I do think, is entering the pre-Ben Roethlisberger's fall off a cliff age of his career. Just can't push the ball downfield. He's just can't move very well. It's been really ugly, and I don't see much of a path for him to turn this thing around, especially when the offensive line is as bad as it is. You see there, Jalen Mayfield has been a train wreck at left guard. Oh my God. I mean, I liked his tape as a run blocker. Moving him into guard, it's been so brutal. He's at a 63 right now. He's playing way worse than that. Like, let's just be honest. I think he'll get a little better as we go forward. But that experiment has been disastrous, and they got to play Washington this week. He could be due for a cold streak next week. Caleb McGarry also, really, you wanted to see him take a step up, but he is a physically limited player. He's just not a great athlete, and he's kind of hovered around this, like, he's okay mark, but there just hasn't been that growth as a former first-round pick that you'd hope to see. So, yeah, the stock is down for this team as a whole. You're also seeing Calvin Ridley is going to drop down one. You know, he had an opportunity to prove that he's an alpha. He can run routes. No one denies that he is an excellent route runner. But this kind of reminds me of the pre-Devontae Adams breakout where, like, we get it. You got a great release, you got great routes, but you got to be a ball winner too if you want to be a true alpha. And Calvin Ridley's not a ball winner. Eventually, you will be covered, and especially a quarterback like Matt Ryan. One of the nice things about Julio Jones was if he got a pinch, he could just throw it up to Julio Jones and he'd come down with it. That's not Calvin Ridley. He's not a contested catch guy at this point in his career, and that's fine. But if he doesn't develop that part of it, it's going to be difficult to ever call Calvin Ridley an alpha elite receiver. And he's going to come down one just because he hasn't been, like, amazing. He's been good, but probably just a slight overrating coming into the year there for Calvin Ridley. Then Cordarrelle Patterson's been really fun as well. He's been like the one bright spot for this team as a whole, honestly. Super explosive running back, just ball carrier in general. They're creative with him too. They'll put him out at receiver, throw him some smoke screens and just different stuff to get the ball in his hands. I wish they were creative that way with Kyle Pitts, but they're doing it with Cordarrelle Patterson, and he's been kind of a spark plug for their offense as a whole. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Deion Jones is going to come down. It's just been a long time since Deion Jones was an elite linebacker. He's never been an elite linebacker in run defense, but the coverage, it's been good, don't get me wrong, but he's just not in that top tier as a linebacker anymore. When he came into the league, he stood out because there weren't a lot of athletes like Deion Jones at that position, but now they're everywhere. And I think Deion Jones is flushed out a little bit more by the athleticism at that position in the modern NFL. Then you got Isaiah Oliver is kind of the lone bright spot on this defense. He's been really good in the slot. He's a big player with a ton of quickness, and he has found a home in the slot as kind of a unique build for a slot corner that typically you would look for an Avonte Maddox type, 5'9", 185 pounds. Nope. Isaiah Oliver is 6'2", 210 pounds, but he'll get in your face. He can run with you to the sideline, and it's been cool to see his evolution in the slot, and I think he's there to stay. Then the Washington football team, disappointing start to their season. So Taylor Heineke's going to go up one. It hasn't been perfect. He's still probably a backup, but he can run around, make some plays. He's got an underrated arm, so he's fine. And then Eric Flowers was such a good move. I could not believe that Washington let him go because I thought he was their best offensive lineman. And, Washington's had some issues, but the offensive line's been pretty good. Eric Flowers been good for them. And Samuel Cosmi, highest rated rookie offensive lineman right now, he's been a mauler as a run blocker for this team. Pass protection's been pretty good for him too. I thought he was a first-round caliber prospect. I couldn't believe Washington got him. Been fun to see him start as a rookie. There were some veterans ahead of him. I wasn't sure when we were going to see him, but that is looking like a total steal. Samuel Cosmi at right tackle for the Washington football team. But this defense, you knew there was going to be some red in here. This has been a very disappointing group. Chase Young has been maybe the most disappointing player in the NFL this year so far. He's been fine. He's not bad. He's still going to be an 84, and, I think he's playing like that 84. But I had him at an 86 coming into the year, and I thought he would shatter that. The thing with Chase Young is he's not playing with the power that he's capable of. I really thought he was going to come in and kind of be more like Myles Garrett, where he can really long arm you and use that 265-pound frame paired with his get-off and explosiveness to manhandle past offensive linemen, and he's not doing it. He's just trying to, chop at you and, bend around you and put together different finesse moves. Use the power, Chase Young. It's in there. I want to see it. I have a feeling that now that we've lowered him, he's going to go off against Atlanta this upcoming week. I hope he does. But I think Chase Young's disappointing start is the biggest reason for Washington's disappointment as a whole. But it's not just him. John Bostic's been kind of a liability, not kind of, he has been a straight up liability in coverage. Teams can go right at John Bostic. Very Blake Martinez in Green Bay-esque right now for different reasons. He just plays slow in coverage. They like him because he's a tackler and flies to the ball, but he's not a modern linebacker. He's been in the league for a long time, and he still plays like it's 2013 or whatever when he came into the league. William Jackson's been a big disappointment as well. Him and Chase Young together, I thought these were, reasons to say this could be an elite defense. I thought William Jackson might ascend to be in that top tier of corners because he's physically gifted and he's got a great surrounding situation around him and great staff. Nope, he's actually been really average and looking like an overpay at the moment. He's just been a corner that can be had out there. So he's got time to turn it around, absolutely, but it's been a rough start in the new system. A guy that played a lot of man coverage in his time in Cincinnati and trying to play more zone coverage here. Maybe it's just not his game. I don't know. Cameron Curl has been outstanding. It does not look like that was a rookie fluke. Just a super smart player. Flies to the ball. He tackles well. Not an uber athlete, but this is one of those quarters coverage systems. So, put him in that same mold of guys like John Johnson, where you don't need elite athleticism, you need to be smart. You need to see what's coming, and you need to communicate, and that's what Cameron Curl does, and it helps him get in great positions, both in run defense and as a pass coverage player. Landon Collins is going to come down, another player that, he's just not what he used to be. It's really what it comes down to. He's fine. He's a box safety. He's in the Kari Willis mold, the Von Bell mold. He's a good box safety, but this is a guy that is really living off of one 2018 season where he was an all-pro player and got paid a ton of money. He's just an overpaid player at this point in time. I think it's time to lower the expectations for Landon Collins. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo coming down. He's been fine, but more bad than good. The inaccuracies are really what stands out to me with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just frustrating. You never know when he's going to put a ball in the dirt or overthrow a ball over the middle. That's his biggest weakness to me. I think his pocket presence is fine, and his release and the way he runs this offense is fine, but there is a limit to a guy that just can't command the football. Then the running back room is really getting shaken up. Trey Sermon's been a disappointment. I thought he would really take over at some point. And you knew Raheem Mostert was injury prone, but Sermon has not been good. He fumbled on his first carry and just hasn't shown a lot of explosiveness. JaMycal Hasty has probably been the most explosive back, and that's a good call by me. I love JaMycal Hasty. I think he was my 11th running back in that draft class. Said the Niners got a total steal there, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Then you have Elijah Mitchell, who is injured right now. He's playing well. So just some shakeup at the running back room. We all know whoever's out there is going to produce, no matter what, for the Niners at running back. But that's how I perceive those players right now. All pretty tight. We'll see how that plays out. Wide receiver room getting shaken up as well. Brandon Ayuk, where are you at, bro? A lot of hype for him coming into the year, and they're not utilizing him, but part of that's on him. You got to get open, and you got to make yourself available for a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's really not doing that. It's been Debo all the way, making amazing plays, been the go-to part of this offense, and he's the guy they've been manufacturing touches for as well. So, on one hand, for Niners fans, Debo looks incredible. He looks like he's ascending. I think A.J. Brown is like a decent high-end comp for Debo, just with his ability over the middle. If he's winning balls like this, he's got that my ball bitch mentality, and obviously the run after catch ability. So stock up for him. Stock down for Ayuk. I think Ayuk will be all right, but just maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump or something. I don't know. Trent Sherfield, Juan Jennings, some rotational receivers getting some opportunities, playing pretty good football when called upon. Offensive line, looking pretty good for the Niners. We know the tackles are good. Alex Mack's been okay at center, but the guards playing really well. Laken Tomlinson continues to just grow and grow and grow and prove week after week after week that he's a dominant run-blocking guard. Daniel Brunskill, who has kind of played a bunch of different positions here, settling in at guard a little bit more. So the offensive line trending up for the Niners. And then we got on the defense, Samson Ebukam. Interesting scheme fit in the 4-3. I think that's really what it is, and he hasn't been the same since like 2019 for the Rams. But he is just like we described with Uchenna Nwosu and Malik Reed and these outside backers in the 3-4 system. He was best in that role where he could drop into coverage, use his quickness in a 2-point stance, and do different things. With his hand in the dirt as a true edge rusher, as a wide 9, speedster, it's not really his game. So just kind of an interesting scheme fit with Samson Ebukam here. DJ Jones has been a very good run defender up front for the Niners, going up +1. I think a contract year for him. And then Deommodore Lenoir, going from 66 to a 68. It hasn't been perfect. Devontae Adams ate his lunch a couple times, but he has beaten out some other corners here and gotten called upon. He's someone that ran a ton of off-man quarters coverage that the Niners do like to run at Oregon State, and it's been comfortable for him just to kind of have that system in place a lot of times here. So, he's an interesting young corner. The reason I'm talking like this is because I really liked Ambry Thomas, who they drafted. I don't know if Thomas is injured or if they like Lenoir more. But yeah, Lenoir's been okay. He's been a, kind of replacement level corner out there, which means he's going to get beat and he's going to have some good reps as well. Hey everybody, a quick interruption of the video. I want to tell you about my friends at MagicSpoon.com. This stuff is the bomb. If you're anything like me, I'm trying to get in shape for my wedding in December, and Magic Spoon has been clutch for me. You can now get the taste of cereals of old. This is my favorite flavor right here, the peanut butter. It tastes like a certain puff-oriented peanut butter cereal that I used to eat all the time, and I love it, but it comes without the carbs, without the high calories, and plenty of protein, keeps me filled up for lunch. Magic Spoon has seriously changed the cereal game. It's changed the breakfast game, and it gives you that convenient breakfast that is healthy that we all want. So Magic Spoon is one of my favorite brands. I wanted to share it with you guys, and now you can support this channel in the process by using promo code FranchiseGuy at MagicSpoon.com. You'll save $5 on your first purchase. I really think you guys will really enjoy Magic Spoon and encourage you to go check it out. So that is promo code FranchiseGuy at MagicSpoon.com. Now, back to the video. Then we got the New York Giants. Daniel Jones is going to go up. He's playing good football. He's getting through his reads. He's been accurate. He's taking care of the football. And he's got no offensive line in front of him other than his blind side. It's fine. He hasn't been great. I'm not blown away by Daniel Jones. I still think he takes, the easy way out on third down a lot of time, throwing it short, just throwing contested balls. He doesn't create a ton, but he's been fine. He's not the problem for the Giants. He's just not the solution either. Then you got Andrew Thomas, my dude, my number one tackle last year. Looking rough after the first year, but said give him some time. He needed to work on that pass protection technique a little bit, coming out of a Georgia offense that didn't run a lot of traditional pass sets, and he's settling in. He's probably, he looks better than Jedrick Wills right now. At least there's that. He's never going to be better than Tristan Wirfs probably. But yeah, Andrew Thomas is trending up. That's the best thing you can really say for the Giants offense right now. Ben Bredesen, who they got from the Ravens, they're starting him. That hasn't been pretty. Then on defense, the interior defensive line has taken a step back. I think they're missing Dalvin Tomlinson a little bit right now. Dexter Lawrence, he's a good player, but I had some heavy expectations for him coming into the year. I wouldn't say he's meeting those. And, Danny Shelton's been, pretty piss poor as well. He'll probably bounce back and be okay, but, they're just not getting what I think they hoped they would. And it's almost like maybe you should not have traded away B.J. Hill, who's really good, New York. Dave Gettleman, maybe? I don't know. But it is what it is. Then on the edge, Lorenzo Carter down 1. I had bigger expectations for him. He just has never developed as a pass rusher. And you see Azeez Ojulari coming out of Georgia as well, come in and getting sacks and putting on different moves on guys. It's like, come on, Lorenzo, you can do that. You just got to work at it. He just hasn't so far. Azeez Ojulari looks great. Kind of a first, second round caliber prospect they got at the end of the second round, and just outstanding value. I mean, he looks like he's going to be a really good player. And, you know, if you walk out of this year, and forget the Daniel Jones situation for a second, but if this is a lost year, if you walk out of this year and you come out of here with a franchise left tackle and a really good-looking edge rusher and Azeez Ojulari, that's more than a lot of teams can say if you're the Giants. I'm just looking for a saving grace here. Those are very valuable positions that at this point in time are looking very good for the Giants with Andrew Thomas and Azeez Ojulari. So some positivity via studs and duds. You can always find it here. Individual players providing fans the optimism. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence going to go down 2 from the first 3 weeks. Probably going to gain one of these points back after a good Thursday night football, but there's no way around it. He's been late on some throws. There's been some uncharacteristic inaccuracies, but the Jags still figuring out what they want to do on offense. He'll get these overall points back. I do believe that throughout the season, but that is the journey. So he's going to go down for now. A.J. Cann has been rough just as a pass protection standpoint in the new system. Going down 2. And then on the defense, K'Lavon Chaisson, nowhere to be found. Like, he's getting reps, but God, just can't get after the quarterback. Not a good run defender. Really a miserable player. One of the worst starters actively in the NFL right now. Getting reps because of his draft pedigree. But still just a remarkably raw, undersized prospect at the moment. That's all he is. Young prospect, 21 years old. Needs to develop. Then you got Andrew Wingard, +1. There is Jags fans clamoring for Andre Cisco to play over Andre Wingard, and well, you got your wish. You know, Cisco played and he was terrible. Wingard can play. He's a smart player, not the best athlete in the world, but nice pick on Kyler Murray and just good, solid safety. Nothing more, nothing less, but +1 for Andrew Wingard. Josh Lambo, -4. I think he was made inactive on Thursday Night Football because he's been so bad. Man. Kind of reminiscent of Mason Crosby a few years ago, because Lambo is one of the best, but you miss all of these kicks, the team's eventually going to look to replace you. I don't know if they want to just straight up get rid of him, because you hope a guy like this can bounce back, but yikes. So then we got the New York Jets. Zach Wilson also coming down 2. These rookie quarterbacks, man, they're looking like rookies. We got spoiled last year with Burrow and Herbert. That's not the norm, especially when you're talking about teams like the Jags and the Jets that offensively, no continuity. Typo there with A.J. Cann. We just talked about him on the Jags, but George Fant is going to come up 1. So Fant getting paid about $10 million a year was an overpay, but he's playing left tackle right now with Mekhi Becton out, and he's actually played okay. And he stood out to me when I was watching them this week against Denver. Now, that wasn't Von Miller's side, and you know, he's going up against Jonathan Cooper, so it's not like saying that much, but he's big dude with a ton of athleticism. When he gets moving on some of these zone runs, he can move people. So I like Fant. I don't know, you know, maybe they put him at right guard when Becton does come back, and that could be a nice find. I'm intrigued. You know, he's a captain for this team. He's a really good athlete. The NFL clearly likes him. I think there's potential there. Just hasn't always had the consistency. Elijah Vera-Tucker is going to come down. I've never had a great vibe with Elijah Vera-Tucker. He's now grading out incredibly poorly, giving up pressures and sacks. I thought it was a bad move to trade up for him. I just didn't think he was like this surefire stud guard. So far, that hasn't been the case. I think he's going to bounce back and have a decent career, but yeah, I don't know. Rough start for Elijah Vera-Tucker from the get-go, really. And the expectations couldn't be any higher after the picks that this team gave up to go up and get him. Then you have Greg Van Roten also struggling. It's really been the guards for the Jets that have been having Zach Wilson run for his life. That interior pressure has been tough for Wilson, and it's Roten and Vera Tucker. The tackles haven't been that bad, honestly. The center was rough against Denver as well. Then we got on the defensive side of the ball, my dude, Bryce Huff and Bryce Hall. Just two Bryce's steals in the draft. But Huff, an undrafted pickup, said it at the time, there's no way this guy should be an undrafted pickup. I had a third or fourth round grade on the guy. Just a relentless, like, power rusher with some pass rush moves in there. And getting an opportunity with the Carl Lawson injury. He's not Carl Lawson. He's never going to be. He just doesn't have those physical traits. But he's a high-effort player, and he is grading out incredibly well for the Jets, getting after the quarterback. So +1, 68 to a 69. Bryce Hall, +2, 72 to a 74. Lengthy corner. Fell because of injury concerns and speed concerns. But, hey, he's in a cover 3, cover 4, zone-heavy system. Perfect for his skill set. Very, very similar to Jaylon Johnson, who we talked about for the Bears. I think you can put both those guys in a very similar grouping. Johnson just a little bit ahead as far as his career trajectory so far. But yeah, Hall is a bright spot in that secondary. Brandon Echols has been okay. Super raw speedster coming out of Kentucky, but legitimate, like, elite speed in there. But just kind of learning the position. He's been beat. He's had some plays, but he's getting experience, which you didn't think he would be getting right away, and there's some potential there. So he's going to go up +1. Marcus May in the new system has been fine, just coming down because he hasn't lived up to that 83 grade so far this year. So the Jets, some good, some bad. Their season's going to be a journey, as is our next team, the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift was this team's offense in the second half for the Ravens. Super smooth in the receiving game, explosive with the ball in his hands, super shifty player. The vision's been good. This is everything you could have hoped for from DeAndre Swift's second season for Detroit. Also, Quintez Cephas, such a reliable contested catch target. That's about all he is a go-ball specialist, but he's very, very good at it. Decent Marvin Jones replacement as a perimeter option. The question with Cephas is, what's his upside? Is he going to be a long-term number 2 for this team? I don't know. I mean, he could be. We'll see. He would have to really refine his release and his route running to add a little bit more to his game before I'm ready to say that. But I love his ball skills. If nothing else, he's an awesome fourth. Amon-Ra St. Brown was kind of one of my not my guys in this draft, and so far that's looked pretty good. I mean, it hasn't been a lack of playing time. He's been a full-time starter for them, but just not getting open for Jared Goff, and just hasn't been good straight up. Like, he's not a fast player, and if you don't separate in the NFL, it's very difficult. I don't care how good you run block and how physical you play and how good your hands are sometimes, unless you're Quintez Cephas, apparently. But yeah, it just hasn't been very good for St. Brown. I think he can get there, but just not a day one starter, even if they're asking him to be. Matt Nelson, super fascinating player. He might be the most fascinating NFL player that we break down in this video. He was an edge player coming out of Iowa. He's been stashed away, learning how to play a line. Well, he's been playing right tackle with the left tackle injury here for Detroit, and he's been pretty good. He's been a really good run blocker for them, and he's holding up in pass protection. Athletic guy, length, work ethic, clearly, to get to where he's at. He's interesting. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing him for a couple more weeks just to see if maybe you have another tackle opposite of Penei Sewell. It's unlikely, but I'm intrigued by Matt Nelson. Romeo Okwara continues to just get after the quarterback. I mean, he has a really good pass rushing skill set. He sets up pass rush moves very well. He's incredibly active with his arms, and he's clearly a better pass rusher than Trey Flowers at this point. So they paid Romeo Okwara, and Trey Flowers is a part of a previous regime, and Okwara continues. I wasn't sure if he was going to repeat after a huge outlier breakout season last year, but so far certainly has. Trey Flowers, on the other hand, he's not in the right scheme, man. He's not a 3-4 outside linebacker, which they like to go 3-4. Outside of a Belichick defense, he's not a defensive end in a 3-4. So he's just kind of very awkward in this defense right now. And if I don't know, a good, maybe like the Chiefs, I don't know, somebody should be calling the Lions about Trey Flowers. I think he'd make a lot of sense to move on from Trey Flowers. Maybe like Miami would be fun to put Trey Flowers opposite of Emmanuel Ogbah back in that system. But yeah, it just hasn't been good for Trey Flowers in Detroit. That was one of the more miserable free agent signings in recent memory. Charles Harris, on the other hand, that's a good free agent signing. He's been really good. Former first-round pick, and seems to be buying into the kneecap biting here because he's got, 2 sacks, 7 pressures on 50 snaps so far. He's been explosive getting after the quarterback. So I don't know if he'll bounce back and be like a full-time starter, but could at least be a rotational third for the Lions. And then Bobby Price, interesting, 6'3" corner. He's out there. He's been serviceable, worth noting. Not the long-term answer at corner probably, but deserves a shout. He's been solid. Then we get the Green Bay Packers. The offensive line has been really impressive, and it's a lot of players that were pivotal pieces for this team. Not so much Yasua Nishman, but he had to play against Nick Bosa on Sunday Night Football, and he held his own. So that's worthy of a boost. Gets the start, I believe, over, what's his name? The right tackle from Tennessee that's a veteran. Name's escaping me right now, but he got the start there. I don't know if what's his name is injured or what, but surprising outing from Nijman. It wasn't perfect, but he's a good athlete. He's been developing there, so that was positive. Elton Jenkins has been awesome, man. His versatility is lethal. He's been a really good left tackle. I think Green Bay should make him their right tackle when David Bakhtiari's healthy, and that could be an elite tackle duo for a long time, and that'd be a huge win for the Packers because he's been really good at tackle, but is also injured at the moment. Then we got Josh Myers. It does seem that this scheme does a good job, or at least this team does a good job to protect centers, and surely they've got a good record of developing these guys because Corey Linsley has not been nearly the same outside of Green Bay, and Josh Myers, who's been a bit of I thought was an overdraft, has looked really good as a center. He's been just very league average, which is very admirable for a second-round pick. He's been really good out on the move on screens and stuff. The outside zone blocking's been good, so it's been a great start for Josh Myers. It's been a very pleasant surprise. I had a good feeling it was going to work out because of those reasons we just said about Green Bay, but and what they do with centers. But yeah, I really thought Creed Humphrey should have been the pick, and honestly, Creed Humphrey probably would be doing even better because he's grading out even better in Kansas City, who hasn't protected their centers as well. But Josh Myers still looks like a good player. Then John Runyon. I like John Runyon, man. Michigan, son of a former Green Bay Packer, and he run blocks with the mentality you want. He's just a little bit of a smaller player, but he's got good technique. He's physical. He gets the start at left guard this week, and the week before he played guard as well, and has been really good. I have a very good feeling about John Runyon, and Green Bay is going to end up with a good offensive line once they get Bakhtiari back, no matter what the kind of rotation is here. But it's just a reminder that some teams just crank out offensive linemen. And there's another team in the Rams that did the same thing this year, that they had question marks, and they've kind of answered them already. But onto the defensive side of the ball for Green Bay. These two defensive ends just ain't it. Kingsley Keke, Dean Lowry. Green Bay's got some cap space. They should go get a complimentary piece to Kenny Clark. There's defensive linemen to be had. Look at the Bengals went and got a BJ Hill for nothing. Go do something. Get a player with some physicality next to Kenny Clark, because these guys they ain't it. They're fine. They're athletic players, but they get bodied against the run, and they're not using that athletic ability as pass rushers either. So Keke and Lowry, disappointing so far. Devondre Campbell. Green Bay participates in free agency and signs a linebacker, and turns out he's really good. What do you know? He's been better than I expected. He's been just good in coverage and overall run defense. He's always been a very good tackler, but he does seem to have found the perfect scheme for his skill set, because he can run sideline to sideline and he doesn't miss tackles. And they really protect linebackers well
in this quarters-heavy system. And it seems to be paying dividends for Devondre Campbell and the Green Bay Packers. Then you got Chandon Sullivan really struggling in the slot, goes back to the playoffs last year. Now I'm fascinated to see if Kevin King can play slot corner, because we know he can't play outside. It's just, he can't handle it. But look at what we did with Isaiah Oliver, what we talked about with him. Lengthy, theoretically quick corner who moved inside and stepped it up. I'm curious if that happens here, but Eric Stokes is clearly playing well enough to earn that outside job. You hope he continues to grow, because outside of Jair Alexander, these are your two best corners on the roster, Sullivan and Stokes. So that's a weakness right now. That's the one spot that they definitely need to truly figure out, other than maybe the DN spot next to Kenny Clark. And then Mason Crosby going up. Kicker love. Big kick. He's been awesome since the, I think people still remember his, collapse like 3 years ago, but ever since then, he's been lights out. Been one of the best kickers in football. So +3 for Mason Crosby. Now on to the Carolina Panthers. Panthers fans been waiting for this one. Been a really epic start to their season. Sam Darnold going to go up +2. I've been impressed by Sam Darnold. It's similar to, we were hesitant on Josh Allen last year. We were slow. And when a player has as much bad film as a guy like Sam Darnold has or Josh Allen had, I think it's very fair to be a little bit slower to raise them up. But hard not to be impressed by what Sam Darnold's done. He's making good decisions with the football, showing off the pocket presence. He's been accurate. And I think he's well on his way to being a quality starter in the NFL, if not more. So just going to take some time, I think, with Sam Darnold and the Panthers before I personally am like all in on him as the future here. But it's clearly off to as good of a start as you could ask for. Brandon Silstra's made some plays as part of a rotation. Just kind of whatever. Nothing really there, but worth noting. Morgan Fox has been an awesome addition. I didn't understand this signing at first, but I see how he plays a role here. Pocket pushing dude. Just been a nice piece. They've had a plan for him. Phil Snow has been such an outstanding defensive coordinator, and Morgan Fox has that skill set as that hybrid defensive end, pocket pushing type that they almost kind of need when you have the speed around the edge and Burns and Reddick. To be able to collapse the pocket with guys like Morgan Fox is huge. The linebackers have been really good here. Shaq Thompson, Jermaine Carter. Both these guys are, third, fourth, fifth-year veterans, decent athletes, trending upwards. This seems to be a very competent linebacking core that this team can build around. Reddick's been really nice as well, just using that speed and get off. And, there's very few edge rushers that want to get the sack as much as, he is. Say what you want about his technique and one-on-one, how consistently is he going to, get past good tackles. Say what you want about that, but his get-off and relentlessness to get after the quarterback has brought a spark when you have all these other different pieces around here. So really impressed by how they're using Hassan Reddick. I didn't think he'd be as big of a factor as he's been. And then J.C. Horn going down for the year, but just going to give him some respect here. He's played really well. Going to give him a +1 as kind of a send-off, and we'll see how he does next year. But definitely was holding his own and looked like a very good pick for the Panthers, and still will be in time. Then you got Sean Chandler, just a rotational safety, really good tackler, getting some respect there. So the Panthers building something really nice in Carolina. Then the New England Patriots. Oh, where's this team going? Mac Jones is going up. I've been more impressed by Mac Jones than not. The critical thing with Mac Jones to me is just don't make him out to be something he's not. I think his ceiling is in that Kirk Cousins range of top 15, top 20 quarterback. Put a really good team around him, and you see where you can go from there. The beauty of Mac Jones is he's getting paid nothing here in New England. But so far, he's been the best, until this week happened and Trevor Lawrence looked really good. But as of the first 3 weeks, he's been the best rookie quarterback. Looks really ready, doesn't make mistakes, really. There's been some interception, but they're not really on him. He moves really well in the pocket. And, I think he gets some crap because this offense just isn't very productive. But, look, they don't have any receivers. The offensive line's not been as good as it could have been. I think Mac Jones has been pretty solid. Just don't make him something he's not. Then you got Kendrick Bourne going up +1. He's been their best receiver so far. He's been their like playmaker, the guy he's good with the ball in his hands, can get open in the intermediate part of the field, which is about as deep as this thing goes. Aguilar's been okay too, but Bourne's been their best receiver so far. These tight ends have been really disappointing. Jonnu Smith has been disappointing in that he just isn't playing well. He's not catching the ball. He's not showing off that dominant run after catch ability. He's not blocking well. Right now, it looks like an overpay on Jonnu Smith. He has got to figure it out outside of the Shanahan offense that did a really good job scheming him open in Tennessee. He's got to create a little bit more in New England outside of that system, and so far he hasn't been able to. As for Hunter Henry, he hasn't been bad like Jonnu Smith has been bad, but he's just not great. Like, I feel like maybe the injuries are stacking up for him. He's not a great separator, but he'll catch the ball. He's a decent blocker. I just think 84 is a little bit too high, living off of his, former pedigree as one of the better tight ends in football. He's just not that anymore. He's kind of into that Austin Hooper, Tyler Higbee radius of just good, reliable tight ends, but not much more. And even Higbee has shown some more explosiveness than Hunter Henry. But then the offensive line getting shaken up a little bit. Michael Onwenu is a freaking stud, man. He is just on a skyrocket trajectory. One of the best run blockers in the NFL, period. But David Andrews, not so much looking good after borderline retiring last year and then coming back. Kind of wasn't sure if he was going to be on the team. He's an interesting case study as far as, is he what he used to be? We saw this with Travis Frederick for the Cowboys, and just, he wasn't the same. He's not a bad player, but just wasn't the same. And I think that's what we're seeing right now from David Andrews. Plenty of time to prove that and reshape that narrative, but that's what we're seeing so far. And then Justin Herron, God, they need Trent Brown back. He is not good at right tackle. I would be surprised if Bill Belichick doesn't roll out a different right tackle sooner rather than later. They don't have a lot of great options, but it's almost like maybe put Onwenu out at right tackle where he was really good and see if someone else can play guard. I don't know. Right now, Justin Herron ain't it at right tackle, period. Both Adrian Phillips and Kyle Duggar on the defensive side of the ball are playing significant reps. It's interesting that they both are, because they both are true box safety types, but they're both pretty much full-time starters for this defense despite the redundancy in their position group. So both getting +1s, both 74 to a 75, both a little different. Duggar, really good athlete. Phillips also a good athlete, but Duggar a little bit more untapped raw potential, whereas Adrian Phillips is a very heady player, but both nice contributors in their intermediate part of the secondary there. Josh Uche also going to get a note. He's been incredible when they use him. I want to see more Josh Uche, but right now he's just a part of a huge rotation on the edge. He is the prototype Belichick edge outside backer. He can rush the passer. He's got finesse. He's got power. He can defend the run. He can drop into coverage. I want to see more Josh Uche. That's all I'm going to say. All right, next up we got the Las Vegas Raiders. Take a deep breath for this one. This is a huge change for the Las Vegas Raiders. Basically the entire team going up. So Derek Carr, I'm just going to gloss over this because I talked about him in my MVP video on Tuesday, so you can go check that out. Playing like a new man, extending plays, playing with the it factor. Love it, what we've seen from Derek Carr. All three of these receivers have been outstanding, and this is one of those trios that you look at and you're like, this just makes sense. These guys all build off each other. Renfrow, the true slot guy, third in Renfrow. Henry Ruggs, the elite speedster, the high first-round pick. Gotta love the way Henry Ruggs can elevate for the football and the way that he's toe-tapping on the sideline and making tough catches, because you can scheme him open and get him wide open and all this stuff. But if he can be a guy that Derek Carr can trust in tough situations, that's when he can take that next step. And then Bryan Edwards is definitely the guy that Derek Carr trusts in tough situations. Carr's always liked, Michael Crabtree, Darren Waller, guys with frame that have big catch radiuses that he can just put it up and let him go make a play. Now, Bryan Edwards can separate, too. That's the cherry on top here. But this is an outstanding complementary of skill sets for the Raiders. Really well crafted and well utilized by John Gruden. Then you got the offensive line. It hasn't really been all that pretty. Colton Miller does continue to climb. Former first-round pick, just week-to-week development from him, it seems. They're doing a really good job with him. Kind of a pass-protecting extraordinaire. He was compared to Nate Solder coming out, and that has aged very well. People forget that Nate Solder was a very good left tackle for the Patriots for a long time. Then they got Jermaine Illuminor. He's playing at right guard, and he's had some really good moments in his career. Has some good starts for the Patriots, and a similar run scheme here for the Raiders, and having some success here. I think there's a chance he's a better guard than Denzel Good, and maybe an answer long-term to left guard, but that's a good pickup. The Raiders, say what you want about them maximizing value when they have key assets, but this team's been incredible at, making the most out of nothing. Guys like Jermaine Illuminor coming in here, but Richie Incognito at guard, and obviously Darren Waller and lots of different players. Illuminor, I would not be surprised if he becomes a long-term starter here because he's playing really well at guard. But just as we mentioned, this team doesn't know how to draft. And that's our next two picks. Alex Leatherwood, who was way overdrafted, was a second, third round prospect with miserable pass protection technique, and he's been a complete liability at right tackle. Surprise! The guy that couldn't block anybody at the Senior Bowl in pass protection drills is struggling in the NFL against the world's best pass rushers. Who would have thought? Maybe don't draft that guy so high. Clelin Ferrell, the guy that they spent the 4th overall pick on, despite having no possible physical upside to meet that, is like a healthy scratch because these other pieces are just better. It's unbelievable. But they're doing so many other things that you can ignore those picks now. Because Max Crosby, if you just flip Clelin Ferrell and Max Crosby, that works. Max Crosby's got explosiveness and length and effort and a couple different pass rush moves paired with really good power. Man, Max Crosby has been probably the biggest surprise in the NFL this season, period. Team or player alike. Just +3 so far. I will say the offensive lines they've played have been hot trash. Pittsburgh, Miami, and Baltimore week 1, the tackle situation was kind of ugly. But part of that was Max Crosby making them look bad. But especially the last 2 weeks, it's been bad. But, Max Crosby has also been incredible and getting basically a +1 every week so far. Then you got Yannick Ngakoue has also looked really good. Getting to put his hand back in the dirt where he wasn't able to do that for Baltimore, looking healthy. And, just showing off that speed rush ability. Still a one-trick pony. He's going to fly off the edge. He's going to bend. He's going to maybe try to get inside when he can. But right now, they're getting rush from every direction. And when that's happening, that's when you see Yannick Ngakoue really produce. Because he's so fast and he's going to get home quickly. And if he's not getting chipped or doubled, he can win one-on-one. And Carl Nassib's been a part of that. He's been good, coming in, rotating, playing some inside, taking snaps off of Crosby and Yannick, helping them stay healthy. Solomon Thomas has been really good getting after the quarterback. I don't want to overreact yet because, again, the last 2 weeks they've been playing really bad offensive lines. So we'll find out a little bit more as we go here. But right now, the Raiders having one of the best pass rushes in football is like the biggest surprise out there, especially when it's guys like Max Crosby and Solomon Thomas and Carl Nassib, who I'd basically written off. Even Yannick Ngakoue I wasn't crazy about, but I did think it was a good signing just to take a chance on him, and they didn't pay him that much. But talk about good signings. Casey Hayward, I did applaud them for this one. And, man, getting back with Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator here, zone defense, he has been lights out. And, man, someone should have paid Casey Hayward more money than they did because he's about to get another huge contract before he retires because he looks outstanding. And then Trayvon Mullen on the other side, this is like all of a sudden one of the better corner duos in the NFL, and this is the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, what? maybe even trios, because Nate Hobbs has been awesome in the slot. He was a player I liked coming out of Illinois. Really smart, quick player. Makes a ton of sense why he's succeeding in a zone-heavy defense in the slot. But yeah, this trio of corners, so many good things happen for the Raiders. It's exciting, and I'm all about it, man. I'm excited to see this Monday night game and see this team continue to grow. Jonathan Abram has been fine. He's still Jonathan Abram. He almost blew the game against the Dolphins. The second he got matched up on a deep assignment, he blew the coverage. Like, he's still Jonathan Abram. He's not a good cover player, but you put him around the line of scrimmage, you have him lurking, spying the quarterback, hook zones, blitzing. Like, he can do some stuff. He flies to the ball, he brings some energy. He's fine. Still way overdrafted, but you get it. And then the kicker going up, Daniel Carlson, making plays at the kicker position. You love to see it. All right, we're getting there. The Rams, Matthew Stafford, +2. Check out the MVP video. I mean, just everything. You know, it's been discussed. Matthew Stafford, how good he's been. But you love to see it again. Darrell Henderson is going to go up. Did miss week 3 with the injury, but he's been explosive. They really didn't miss a beat in the first 2 weeks of the run game. There's some explosiveness that they could have had, of course, with Florida State kid. Can't think of his name, but Henderson's more than good enough. He's been fine for them. Cooper Kupp, +2. He's been one of the best receivers in the NFL this year. I find the conversation fascinating to discuss, like, what's his ceiling? Like, can Cooper Kupp be considered a top 5 receiver in the NFL? I mean, he's producing like it. You can't tackle him. He feels like he's always open. He catches everything. Really unique player. Because clearly he's the best slot receiver in the NFL at the moment. But the way they use him is much more than that. So it's fascinating. Like, he's kind of in the A.J. Brown mold right now, just as far as his usage and production. It's interesting. But yeah, he's been incredible. And his chemistry with, I almost said Goff, with Stafford has been lights out. Deshaun Jackson looks fast as hell. If he's healthy, he's Deshaun Jackson. That's been proved over time. Now, how long does he stay healthy for the Rams? Do they keep this intact where he's only playing, 10 snaps a game and getting these deep shots at the right time? If anyone's going to figure out how to keep the guys healthy and figure out that game plan, it's going to be Sean McVay. But man, is it just a cherry on top of all of this to see Deshaun Jackson burning past corners, showing like legit 4.3 speed yet again at 33 years old. Then we mentioned the offensive line for the Rams. This is another team that they crank out surprising performances from the offensive line. David Edwards continues to grow as one of the better run blocking guards. I don't want to say in the league, but he has been a really impressive run blocker. Brian Allen was supposed to be like the NFC West's hope at stopping this offense, and he's been one of the better grading centers in the league. And again, part of the scheme just protects these guys so well with these moving pockets and how well they get rid of the ball in the screen game. It's a safe haven for offensive linemen. And these guys have some talent, don't get me wrong. But the scheme gets the most out of these guys. Austin Corbett, all the same. Now, he's a little bit more of a traditional, like, bigger dude, guard. Like, he's got good pass protection technique. This offensive line very quickly has gone from potential weakness to like legitimate strength. The tackles are very good here too. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Greg Gaines, good defensive tackle, just showing more consistency as his NFL career continues. Justin Hollins has kind of officially taken that edge 2 spot for now, at least on early downs. I thought Terrell Lewis has showed some nice things as well, but Hollins is the early down guy, the 3-down player that can do everything in that role that we've described of these kind of do-it-all 3-4 outside backers in these 3-4 quarters oriented defenses. And then David Long has been good. I mean, that was another question mark coming into the year on the Rams, was David Long, who's really athletically gifted and was a prospect I liked, but just hadn't gotten an opportunity to show it, but being the third corner next to Darius Williams and Jalen Ramsey behind Aaron Donald up front, it's a good spot to be for a young corner, and he's held his own. He hasn't been dominant or anything. He's been the guy that you can probably attack if you want, but he's been solid, so +1 there. And then Matt Gay +2 at the kicker spot, been a good find, +2, 73 to a 75. The march goes on with the Baltimore Ravens. Tyson Williams speaks for itself. Undrafted running back, second-year player, looks super explosive. I said on the podcast this week, I think he can give them 90% of what they had in J.K. Dobbins. They just got to continue utilizing him in the right ways. The offensive line's been good. You know, Ben Powers, they're kind of figuring out who their best guy at left guard is between him and Ben Cleveland. And it's a good problem to have because both of those guys look really good when they've gone to him. So Powers going up, Cleveland also playing well. I really like Ben Cleveland. And then how about the breakout call on Bradley Bozeman? Even Ravens fans thought I was out there with this one, but Bradley Bozeman, one of the highest graded centers in the NFL, leading the charge for this run game. He was on my top 10 breakouts list that we did before the season, and hell yeah, that's looking like a good call so far. I mean, whew. He has been mauling dudes up front. Can't say the same about Alejandro Villanueva. Even if Bradley Bozeman was a good call, I thought Alejandro Villanueva was going to be a potential upgrade in pass protection to Orlando Brown. I will own that one. You know, Orlando Brown's had his problems, but Villanueva has been a nightmare. I'm not even convinced that he's the best tackle that they could be playing right now. So that's been bad. The thing is, he's been really good as a run blocker. He's a good athlete, and if he can just settle down in pass protection, this offensive line is going to be really damn good. But that's a big if right now. Then on the defensive side of the ball, Odafe Owe, he's up there for the biggest surprises. You know, I did say the second they drafted him, I said, okay, well, Odafe Owe is going to make me look stupid because the Ravens are so good at developing these guys. It is fair to say, though, that I didn't think, even in that world, he would be really good right away, and that's what we're seeing. You know, as a pass rusher, he's been fine. You know, he had a good chase down sack week 1. He still doesn't have like a ton of pass rush moves. Like he has ways to go, and I think he'll develop in that area. But what I will say is he is beefed up. This is not the player I watched at Penn State. At Penn State, maybe it was just the camera angles, but he looked slender and was getting beat off the ball and pushed around. And that is not the Odafe Owe that we're seeing on the NFL field. This dude is jacked out of his mind. He is handling blocks. He's been a beast in run defense. Just the raw arm talent to pop the ball out for the game-winning forced fumble against the Chiefs. So, like, he is a powerful, uber athletic player. And to see the power on the field, that's when you can start to get excited about, okay, if he can start to put together a bull rush, this guy's going to be lethal. Again, the pass rushing still has a ways to go for Odafe Owe, but it's been a great start for him. And that's been one of the bigger surprises for me. Not that, you know, I thought he was going to have a really good career when the Ravens drafted him, because that's what they do, is they develop these players. But it's how quickly he's turned into this player that's been a big surprise. But someone that's not so much developing here is Patrick Queen, who's kind of just more of the same right now. Ultra aggressive player. I mean, talk about a guy that, you know, he's going to go. He's going to guess where the football is, and he's going to go. And he's going to guess right 1 out of 5 times, and it's going to look amazing. And it's going to turn into a really good highlight reel, and Ravens fans are going to get really excited. You turn on the other 4 plays, and he's completely out of position. He's missing tackles, taking bad angles. That's been the Patrick Queen experience so far. So, you know, you hope he can find a balance in there at some point, but he's hurting this defense more than he's helping it so far. Anthony Averett, I tweeted that he has a breakout opportunity with Marcus Peters going down. He's been fine. He's looked like a young corner that is not so much young, but an inexperienced corner with athleticism that is going to have some learning curves as he becomes their full-time starting corner this year. I think the future can be bright for him. And he's had a good start for the first 3 weeks. It hasn't been perfect, again, but I've liked what I've seen from Anthony Averett. I am moving Justin Tucker's. Sorry for the typo. Justin Tucker is going to go up to a 99 because why the hell not? This guy is the GOAT of kickers. Even though he missed a kick last week, I just feel like he should have a 99 next to his name. Madden did the same thing this week, and yeah, shout out to Justin Tucker, the GOAT of kickers. 66-yarder for the win. Are you freaking kidding me? Huh. New Orleans Saints. So Jameis is going to get a +1. Playing safe, conservative football. There hasn't been like a ton of wow moments from Jameis, but just to see him not turning the football over is due for some, credible boosts here. Tony Jones Jr., undrafted pickup, kind of the replacement to Latavius Murray, power back, playing really good football, breaking tackles, and been a good relief pitching running back to Alvin. Lil Jordan Humphrey, catching the ball, making guys miss when called upon. I like Lil Jordan, just terrible athlete. At least as far as his speed goes. But they find a creative way to use him occasionally, and he can make the occasional chain-moving catch. Then on the offensive line, Andrews Pete continues to be a liability, man. Just constantly giving up pressures on the inside. He's not a guard. He's lengthy and lacks quickness. People get up and under him, and he can't keep up with guys. So Andrews Pete just not good. They overpay him, and I don't know why this guy makes Pro Bowls and all this crap, but yeah, the dude just gives up a ton of bad pressures. Calvin Throckmorton, though, is playing well. I liked him coming out, but just a miserable athlete at the position. Like bottom tier as far as foot speed and just strength, just speed in general, acceleration, get off, you name it. But his technique's good. He's versatile, can play a lot of different positions. Played a lot of tackle and center at Oregon, but playing guard here for the Saints. He's been a Rock Morton, if you will. He's been solid in pass protection. Could be a nice swing man for them. Give you that ideal like sixth man swing man deal at guard. Then for the defense, Tano Passanio, Albert Huggins. This is a kind of good strategy by the Saints. They're like, well, we'll trade away a bunch of picks, but we're gonna find players for cheap that basically make up for our draft picks. Sorry for the typo on Tano Passanio. It's 69 to a 70 there. Versatile, big body defensive end. And a good move for both these guys, players with upside that are still growing in a good opportunity to become like key role players for them. Tano Passanio, 6'8", lengthy, like hybrid defensive end. Never been a full-time starter, but has slowly grown throughout his career. And they're using him in different positions here. He's been a good run defender. He's played some nose tackle on pass rush downs. He's just been a good rotational piece. And then Albert Huggins, was the fifth man on that loaded Clemson defense a couple years ago. He's not really gotten an opportunity. He's bounced around, but developing and wants to be great. Pick him up. Acts as a sixth-round pick, basically, who's already had 2 years to develop. You might have a good fourth defensive tackle here. So a couple of good moves. This front office is just king. Demario Davis had just an elite performance. Absolutely elite performance against the Patriots. He was everywhere. That game needs to be created as a coaching cut-up of how to play linebacker in the NFL. Just doing everything. Really fun to watch. Marshawn Lattimore has been probably the best corner in the NFL through 3 weeks. He missed week 2, so I don't know if you count that or not, but really just a +1 for both weeks. Dominant shutdown performances. Got paid handsomely, and he's paying back that for the Saints. And then Paulson Adebo, I'm actually going to go against the PFF grade a little bit on this one. He's grading out at like 55. But he's had some learning curves for a corner, but I've been really impressed with some of his plays. Like, he's having some tight coverage. His press coverage has been good. Press bail is good. He's sticking with guys. And even if he's given up some plays, you'll live with that for a young corner that I thought was one of the steals of the draft. And honestly, the eye test has looked really good for Paulson Adebo. Just some of those plays that he has given up hurting that PFF grade a little bit. But I'm going to trust the eyes here. I think Paulson Adebo is a really good future number 2 opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. Then we've got the Seahawks. I think the offense has really been par for the course. It's just defense here. Both of those second-year edge players, Alton Robinson, Darrell Taylor, going up. Robinson, less room to go up, I suppose. Both these guys are having very similar starts. It's kind of splitting reps all across the board on this front. But both guys have had really impressive reps in there. And both seem to have really high upside down the road and should continue to grow as the season goes on. But good to see the edge group here showing some optimism for the Seahawks. We again, they're playing in a rotation. They're not like dominant forces on the field. But two players with physical upside that are young and growing. Brian Moan is a nose tackle that's played pretty good as that rotational nose for them. But this secondary, man, Trey Flowers has definitely entered Kevin King territory as far as like worst corner on the field with just rare level stiffness and lack of coverage ability. It's been that way for a long time. I don't get what the Seahawks see in him. They got to get Sidney Jones out there to replace Trey Flowers ASAP. And then Quandre Diggs, just honestly incredibly overrated. Highlight reel player. Aggressive guy, makes some picks, will light you up, comes downhill, but a guy that will be out of position quite a lot. And Seahawks fans love him, and I get it. Like, you'll see him a couple times a game come up and pop a ball out or, have a big pick, big tackles, you name it. And that's exciting stuff, but safety is you got to be consistent down to down to down, and Quandre Diggs is not. And that's sorry again for the typo. This was getting late, but -1, 79 to a 78 on that one. Okay, then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben. I mean, that's your dud of the week, which, by the way, we're not doing star of the week, dud of the week, because it's 3 weeks. We'll be back to that next week. But, yeah, Big Ben looking like kind of the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, certainly in the conversation. We've talked a lot about Big Ben on the podcast and throughout the week, as has pretty much everybody else. Anyone that's watched the Steelers play, not just this year, but last year, he's just done. There's nowhere for this to go. It really just comes down to the defense playing elite and the playmakers being incredible, and that just hasn't been the case so far this season if they want to even be a playoff team. Pat Fryermuth's been pretty sweet. He's still rotating with Eric Ebron, but he's the better tight end in my opinion. He's got more reliable pair of hands. I think he's tougher after the catch, a better blocker. So I think we'll continue to see more Pat Fryermuth. I had a first-round grade on Pat. I thought that was a steal, even if I thought they maybe could have gone with a different position, but he looks like a very good young tight end. And then Dan Moore has been starting at left tackle. There's some hype for him coming out of the preseason, and he's been okay. They get rid of the ball extremely quick, so it's kind of difficult to actually judge these tackles because they don't get in a lot of deep drops and all this stuff. But it also protects these guys, and it's been good for a guy like Dan Moore. He's been solid for a rookie. Then I just want to say, talk about teams that earn the benefit of the doubt with the offensive line. The Steelers are one of those teams, and the O-line has not been good, but Big Ben has been the reason they're losing, not really the O-line. Then you got, on the defensive side of the ball, Cam Hayward's having his best year. I mean, he looks even more explosive. Like, his power has been overwhelming for offensive linemen. He's always been an elite run defender. He's doing it without TJ Watt out there. It's been really impressive. Cam Hayward, honestly, with Chris Jones playing edge and being kind of not out of the picture, but definitely not in the elite interior defensive lineman picture so far this year, Cam Hayward's been IDL number 2. He's been unbelievable. Alex Highsmith, limited reps with Melvin Ingram in there, but he continues to grow, and his future is really bright with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even if he doesn't have an incredible season this year as a third piece, he just has everything. He's got effort, strength, pass rush technique, athleticism, you name it. He's just a little bit undersized, but yeah, he's going places. He can do everything. And you love that he has a pass rushing skill set already coming out of Charlotte. And then in the secondary, James Pierre has been starting, and he's been okay. Steelers fans tried to tell me that he was going to be starting on the outside. I still don't think it's ideal, but he's been okay. He had a good week 1, a couple of nice pass breakups. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick, I mean, I love Minkah, but I'm sorry, you can't keep blowing coverages every week and expect not to go down. That's his job. I get that he wants to take risks and, try to be in the right place at the right time, but he ain't. He's out of position. Teams are attacking them deep, and it's Minkah Fitzpatrick's job. Like, they're going at his holes that he's abandoning. Like, you can't do that as a free safety. So he's coming down. I love Minkah as much as the next guy, but I mean, he's not invincible. So it is what it is. It's got to be better. It's kind of like Eddie Jackson in a lot of ways. Okay, 3 teams left. The Houston Texans. Brandon Cooks +1. He has been incredible. I don't know if he's putting on a case for someone else to acquire him and go on a playoff run somewhere else, or maybe he's a big weapon for the next quarterback here, but regardless, he's been a bright spot for this offense. Pharaoh Brown also just playing his ass off. Like, he's been a feel-good story. Going back to last year, he played well, but he's continuing it into this year, blocking well, making a couple plays. Week 1, he had a big catch, so I think it was week 1. Yeah. And then Titus Howard is going to go down 2, 71 to a 69, moving into guard this year. Certainly wasn't good at tackle, but yeah, just isn't getting the job done at guard. It might take some time to learn a new position. I actually think long-term he can figure it out. But yeah, with Marcus Cannon at right tackle, they haven't needed Howard at tackle, so they're moving him inside. It hasn't been pretty. And then for the defense, they're trying a bunch of different pieces out here. A lot of young players are playing okay for this Texans defense. Jonathan Grenard, however you say that. I'm not a big fan of his. I just don't like the athletic upside, but he's got a good skill set. Had a nice sack last week, getting in there for the first time. Looks like he might be a rotational piece for them. Charles Omenihu playing a lot more edge in this 4-3 defense, and he's very comfortable at that spot. He can get overpowered a little bit on the inside, especially on early downs, but I like him as that kind of bigger-bodied edge guy. You can slide him inside on later downs where he's a good, pass rusher, and they've found a good way to use him. He's been really nice. I think he's going to be kind of their bright spot in this front 4 this season. I think he continues to climb. Ross Blacklock's been pretty good too. An interesting player. He's undersized, not the strongest player, but he's been using that quickness to really get after the quarterback and show some of that on stunts and splitting the inside and getting some pressures, but also in run defense in pursuit, showing off the speed and athleticism. A very unique defensive tackle. They spent a high draft pick on him last year, so they're hoping those two can kind of give them something to build around, something to keep an eye on for the Texans. They're just looking for youth and building blocks for this defense, and I think Blacklock and Omenihu are nice pieces. Malik Collins, not so much. He's more of a veteran, but he's been good for them. Both, kind of in his best start to his career as a run defender, kind of trying to be a leader up front for them. Then Tremon Smith on the back end has actually played some decent reps. He's been like a kick returner. I want to say like some team experimented with him as a running back at one point. So obviously some of the NFL values is a really good athlete. But playing this zone-heavy system, he's actually been serviceable as a corner. So that's an interesting piece right there. And then Lonnie Johnson, he's a safety, man. He's a good safety. He wasn't my favorite cornerback prospect, and I'm glad that they switched him. But he's super lengthy. He's an outstanding tackler. And you see some of those cornerback instincts kick in sometimes at safety. So he continues to grow and learn the new position. I like him. Interesting couple pieces up front. There's some stuff to be optimistic about on the Texans. It's not all bad. Okay, Tennessee Titans. I am going to drop Julio Jones. You go back to last year, was not an elite player, was still very good. But now in Tennessee, again, he's been good, but not elite. The ball skills haven't been like unbelievable. He's not what he used to be, where he's constantly open. The injuries are starting to pile up. Obviously, Julio Jones is a very good receiver, and he's going to help the Titans win a lot of games this year. But at 90 overall, with that grade I had on him, he has not lived up to that for about 2 years now. And I think it's safe to say that he needs to prove that he can get back to that level before we put him there at this point. So -3 for Julio. And then a couple of receivers stepped up this week. Nick Westbrook-Akine, Chester Rogers. Westbrook's the one that's going to get the ratings boost. I don't know if Rodgers is going to continue to climb or climb, period. But Westbrook, getting +2, 63 to 65. They're going to have to lean on both those guys this week. Looks like both Julio and A.J. Brown are going to be out. So we might learn a little bit more about Westbrook and Chester Rogers this week. Then on the defensive side of the ball, this front seven's playing pretty good. Getting some surprise contributions from Laurel Murchison, a mid-round pick a couple years ago. Maybe last year, I think. Actually, I can't remember if he was last year or the year before. But either way, role player, run defender, playing good football up front. Tyre Tart, Titans fans did tell me that he was going to be a big part of that rotation and a run defender up front. He's been solid, so good job, Titans fans. You were right. Olasunkanmi Adieni, +2, rotational edge rusher. He has, I think, 3 sacks on 5 pressures so far on like 40 snaps. So, people are going to see 3 sacks in 2 games, some good pass rush moves. This guy's a stud, right? Well, we'll find out. Converting 60% of your pressures into sacks is just never going to sustain, period. So we'll see. I don't think there's a ton there, but he has looked good, and he looks like a good pickup and a good rotational piece at least. Then for the linebackers, Rashaan Evans continues to just not play very good football. He's a physical player. He's going to have some flash plays in run defense. But even in run defense, he's not always in the right spot. They can get gashed, and sometimes it is on him, but especially as a cover player, he's missing some tackles this year. Evans just has been a disappointment. There's really not a good way around it, but it is what it is. Then the linebacker, David Long, going to get a boost this week. He has been pretty solid, fighting for reps with Evans and Brown there. But, a guy that has that kind of special teams mentality, flies to the ball, tackles well. Kind of similar to Jayon Brown when he came up competing for reps with, I think it was at the time Evans that would have been Woodyard, Wesley Woodyard, and they had, I can't think of the name. But yeah, that's very, very memorable to me, to how Jayon Brown fought his way up on this team. And then Christian Fulton, huge star this week. +4, 70 to 74. I loved this pick last year. We didn't get to see a lot of Christian Fulton last year, but we're seeing a star in the making, I think. At corner. We've only seen 8 snaps so far from their first round pick. We're 2 hours into this thing. I can't recall his name. Caleb Farley. So Fulton, Farley, Molden's been pretty solid in the slot. This is a really exciting young secondary if they can continue to grow together. Fulton's a really good man cover corner, and he's in a good system where he can thrive there. So it's been fun to see him. I thought that was one of the steals of the draft last year. I was surprised we didn't see more of him last year. It's been fun to see him this year. Okay, final team, the Minnesota Vikings. Pretty easy one. Alexander Mattison, straightforward, played a really good game. Getting the starting reps against the Seahawks. He's stepped up when they need him. KJ Osborne, +4. Kind of out of nowhere has emerged as this team's number 3 receiver. Super reliable pair of hands, tough player over the middle of the field, but he can step outside when they move Thielen into the slot. He has made some plays on the outside, so definitely worth noting KJ Osborne's success so far. And then finally, a guard, surprising expectations as Oli Udoh at right guard, really good athlete that they've been developing, is kind of kicking ass at right guard. +3 this week, beating out Wyatt Davis and kind of making the staff look good. And if he's good, that's awesome because Darrisaw should be back soon. You got Cleveland, you got O'Neal at right tackle, Bradbury at center. Like, that could be a really good offensive line. We've said that about the Vikings before, but I feel like it's slowly coming together, and they need a guy like Oli Udoh, who's a really good athlete, to kind of have that emergence. It's only 3 games. They haven't played the best interior rushes in the world. So we'll find out in time, but it's looking pretty good for Oli Udoh at right guard. Tyler Conklin, stepping up at tight end with the Irv Smith injury. Just kind of big, physical, mauling type of tight end. I think they'd much prefer to get some of these other better athletes involved in this system, but for now, Conklin's serviceable. Nick Vigil, +1, 70 to 71. Just a veteran signing, stepping up in the place of the injured Anthony Barr. He's had a pick and some good coverage plays out there. Just a capable veteran having a good year for the Vikes. And Xavier Woods looking like a really good pickup. You know, we've seen Anthony Harris play really good football, kind of elevated by this split safety defense. It's a good system, and Zimmer does a really good job with these safeties, and I think Xavier Woods is thriving a little bit. Good pickup for the Vikings to get some value there. And Xavier Woods, a really good athlete who fits their system.
And that is gonna do it. That is the end of our first Studs and Duds of the season. You can count on these videos every Friday or so. Again, it's a really lengthy commitment to get this thing done, so you might see some Thursday nights, you might see some Saturdays. It's gonna vary a little bit, but around Friday afternoon is when you can expect this. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Also consider endorsing this video if you enjoyed. You wanna support this series. I would really appreciate it. And lastly, make sure you follow TFG Plays on YouTube. Link is in the description below for all of my Madden content. Gonna be starting up an offline realistic Bengals rebuild very soon. So I will see you guys over there, and I'll see you guys next week for more content. Peace out.